Hey sweaties. I feel like I look like a magician in this outfit. It's me, Hannah. It's been a minute. Well, not really, but you know what I mean. Welcome, old and new. How are you? Welcome to my channel. You're in for a treat. We're here today because I'm breaking down another show. What else needs to be said? Oh, well, before I get into anything at all, I need to have a bereavement session when I'm recording this in 2 hours, T-minus 2 hours. TikTok will be banned. Oh, God! Me and my friend have been texting. They keep sending out the Republican Party things, and we're like, should we just say, yeah, it's okay, 10 out of 10? Just keep TikTok, please! I just need you to know where my headspace is at. I'm grieving. I'm pre-grieving. Oh, my computer just died. Well, let's get into today's video. If you saw the thumbnail, saw the title, you know what's up. I am going to be breaking down the Peaky Blinders. Yes. Oi! I also should just apologize. Any kind of British accent that may come out, British, Irish, Russian, Italian, I'm sorry. I can't help it sometimes, you know. My computer is wanting to kill itself. So while I wait for that to happen, the audio is gonna be shitty for just a minute, but hang on, hold your horses. If you've never watched this show, it's kind of like the British Sopranos. Anyway, there's 6 seasons, 6 episodes per season. My thought process as of this moment right now is that I'm gonna do the first 3 seasons in this video, and then I'll have a second video recapping the last 3. And then we should be ready for the movie coming out. You heard me right, sweaty. Yes, I don't know when it's coming out. I don't have all that inside scoop. Maybe it'll come out later this year. I don't know. You know my love for American Horror Story? Now let's get into my love for Peaky Blinders. The fucking Peaky Blinders. This show, there should be some trigger warnings. Foul language. It is raunchy. There's sex, there's definitely killing, there's blood, there's torture. It's just gangsters. It's just good old-fashioned gangsters. All right, I think I'm up and running again. I hope it don't quit on me. Let's just go ahead and get started. I had to redo the board from when I did my American Horror Story videos. I took the board down because I didn't think I was gonna need it ever again. I don't know why, I just didn't assume I would. Also, this bothered me every time I was editing my video. Don't ask, I was trying to do something one day when I first moved in here and it didn't work, but now it's left a pink stain on my wall. I'm not getting my security deposit back. If the board happens to fall down halfway through the video, shut up. Didn't expect her to be up there for a long time, okay? She's here for a good time. Anyway, season 1 starts in 1919 in Birmingham. Not Birmingham, Birmingham. The synopsis of season 1. Leader of the local gang, the Peaky Blinders, and second brother in the Shelby family, Tommy Shelby gets involved with stolen guns and uses his find to move the gang up the social ladder. So first and foremost, pretty much in every single scene, Mr. Tommy Shelby, Cillian Murphy. I'm just gonna go through the whole Shelby family. Arthur, he is the oldest, and then we have John. This is their only sister, Ada. I think she's after they don't really clarify. Her and John seem to be pretty close in age, but I think Arthur, Tommy, Ada, and then John, their littlest brother, Finn. Now this is what he looks like in the first season. Don't be shocked when I change that up. Arthur, John, Tommy have come back from the war. They were in France. Tommy was what they call a clay kicker. He did digging, dug tunnels. He digged. And he's a decorated war veteran. It's not funny. I don't know why I laughed. When they gave him his medals, he just threw them in what they call the cut. He was like, oh, f that. I didn't even want to go to war. I didn't even want to be here. I don't want this shit. And then we also have Aunt Polly. Her name is actually Elizabeth Grey. Slay. Also, Narcissa from Harry Potter. Okay, let me get them on the board real quick. So the size of their picture is heavily influenced by how much I like them. Yeah, that'll do, donkey. Opening scene shows Tommy riding his racehorse Monahan boy through a Chinese village in Birmingham. A man shows up. He runs the wash house, or sometimes the brothel. It's all in the same place. And he comes running down the street with this little girl. Run up to Tommy. He says, is this the girl that tells fortunes? And she gets this red powder and blows it into the horse's face. Also something to note, well, all the Shelbys, their mother's side, they're part gypsy. So they believe, well, especially Tommy, believes in gypsy lore and bad luck and curses and whatnot. Anyway, that's why they call it the powder trick. And then when he leaves, and he tells everybody that's watching, y'all better go put your money on Monahan boy down at the races. You might win some money. Don't tell anybody else. That's from me to you. Then Tommy goes back home. I think they call it a betting den, I think is what it's called. I don't know. It's like the Shelby office, their home front. Arthur comes in and says that people saw him doing the powder trick, and he's like, why the fuck are you doing that? Stop. And also, he says to keep in mind that they cannot cross Billy Kimber. Who's Billy Kimber, you may ask? Oh, well, I'll tell you, bestie. A rival gang member, I guess it'd be a rival gang. He fixes the horses. You gotta go through Billy, okay? Fixing horse races without him knowing. Oh, that's bad. So don't fucking cross Billy fucking Kimber. Where do I want to put you? Arthur does tell him that there is a new copper coming to town, a new inspector. Investigate a crime that has taken place. Well, I already told you, they're stolen guns, but we'll get to that in a second. He's bringing up new Protestant Irishmen to the city to work for him instead of the local police because Peaky Blinders pay off quite a bit of the police force. The inspector that's coming, he's like, no, but more on that later. Tommy goes to a bar. He meets his former best friend, his best mate, Freddie Thorne. They were in the war together along with Danny Whizbang. I don't even remember what his real last name is, but they call him Danny Whizbang. Freddie Thorne, he's a communist. He's leading a group of people to, what is he doing? He's just trying to get a higher pay. The king is not paying us what we deserve, and we need to riot and stand up. Him and Tommy had a falling out since the war. Freddie actually ended up saving Tommy's life. I think he took a bullet for him or something like that. Well, anyway, whatever the fact, all three of these men were in the tunnels together, and the enemies came through. Pretty much all of the men that went to war have a horrible PTSD. And Danny Whizbang, it's not good for him. Ooh, it's bad. Oh, I should mention, they all came back war heroes, not just Tommy, but they all threw their medals in the cut. Tommy goes to their local pub called the Garrison. At the Garrison, Freddie comes up and he says that he heard about a shipment of guns coming into the city that had been stolen, and Winston Churchill has sent an inspector to come looking for it. And then he asks Tommy if he knows anything, but Tommy's like, I'm not telling you shit. The reason why Freddie brought this up to Tommy was because he heard their names have popped up on a list. They pulled their files from being in the army or being in the war. What branch would they be in? The army, I guess? I don't know if it's the same, whatever. All of a sudden, Danny comes into the Garrison thrashing and throwing hands. He thinks that he's back in the war. They calm him down. They wrestle him down. They experience this like on the daily. So this is where we find out what happened with the guns. Okay, Polly's in church, right? Good Catholic woman. And then Tommy comes in there and sits behind her. He explains what happened with the shipment. He said he was having 4 of his men steal 4 motorcycles that were a part of another deal going on. Instead, they got drunk and they took the wrong crate, which ended up being filled with a lot of ammunition. Brought it to Charlie Strong's yard, which Charlie Strong, the Shelby's uncle, and he has a scrap metal yard. I think of it like a junk yard. Anyway, they bring the crate there, they open it up, and they see all of these guns and shit, and they're like, dude, what the Let me rattle off what they actually found. Okay, the crate contained 25 Lewis machine guns, 10,000 rounds of ammo, 50 semi-automatic rifles, 200 pistols with the shells, and it was all headed to Libya. Polly's like, are you fucking kidding me? She's like, well, you're gonna go throw it somewhere where the police can find it and leave no trace, so it's not on our hands. This is too messy. He says that Charlie won't move contraband under a full moon, so he's gonna have to wait a couple of days. You know, it's that whole gypsy lifestyle. They don't trust it. Ada of the ship. I told you. Hold on. Okay. Ada, sister of the Shelby brothers, has been seeing Freddie Thorne in secret. I don't even know how long. They're in a very romantic relationship. And Freddie starts asking about meetings, family meetings amongst the Shelbys to try and get any information he can. Well, all right, here she is. Grace Burgess. She comes into the Garrison one day asking for a job as a barmaid. Harry, who's the bartender, and he's like, oh, sorry, the position's been filled. And she's like, not according to this morning's paper, it's not. I love to sing. I used to sing for the men in Dublin. That's where she's coming from. I can really calm down a crowd if they start getting too rowdy. So what about it? She sings him a song. Also, while she's doing it, she's emptying out, I don't even know what they would call it. Like nowadays we call it dip or like spitting tobacco in those pots. She's like dumping them out and it's ew. Long story long, he hires her and she begins working at the Garrison. More on that later. This is where we meet Inspector Campbell. Also, hey, Dr. Grant. For those of you who don't know, which is probably most of you, I am a slut for Jurassic Park. Not Jurassic World. That doesn't exist. Jurassic World is not, it's not a thing. Not in my household. Jurassic Park though, I think I could probably quote the entire movie front to back. Imagine my surprise when I first started watching this show and Dr. Grant shows up and he gets rough. Maybe I should just go ahead and show you. This is also Sergeant Moss. He is one that the Peaky Blinders pay off, working at the police station? The firm? The terms, I'm not sure if I'm like translating the day and age and also the region. It's our first scene seeing Inspector Campbell basically saying what I already said, where he's like, I don't trust any of yous.
I don't trust any of yous.
He's basically saying, y'all, I'm bringing in my own police force. These Protestant Irishmen. He and Sergeant Moss start working together. Obviously, well, we'll get to it. Arthur, he's out. I think he's at a movie theater. He's out with 2 women and he says, I want a blowjob from each of you before they let the regular people in, or something like that. But before any fun can be had, Arthur is scooped up by the new police, Protestant Irishmen, and brought to Inspector Campbell. For what? Like, why? What's happening? Inspector Campbell, he basically beats the shit out of him in order to try and get some answers about where the stolen guns may be. I know you guys, Peaky Blinders, you guys run the city pretty much. Where are the guns at? I know you know. And Arthur's like, huh? And the thing is that he really doesn't know, so he's just beating the shit out of him for no reason. Tommy goes into the garrison, and that's where he meets Grace for the first time. He asks, like, are you a whore?
Are you a whore?
And then he says something like, oh, it doesn't matter. This is where they first meet. And he goes and he asks for a bottle of rum, and he brings it to Shelby House, the betting den thing, where Arthur is there. He gives it to Arthur while they're cleaning up his cuts, and then that's where Arthur explains there's a new inspector here. He's asking about some guns. He also says that Inspector Campbell has asked for the Peaky Blinders to become the eyes and ears if they hear anything about the guns. Oh yeah, we can do that for sure. And we see Tommy, he's smoking some opium in a really long pipe. And I was like, that's an obnoxiously long pipe. But he's smoking some opium to help him sleep, but when he sleeps, he dreams being back in the war, in the tunnels, and then he wakes up in like a cold sweat. Danny Whizbang, he's out near an Italian restaurant, and so he's starting to have a PTSD episode. A waiter comes by and is like, you need to leave. You need to leave! Basically, he kills the owner of the restaurant. There's 2 Italian men, you find out being the owner's brothers. They're watching him kill this man. Danny just takes off running. So they get back to Tommy saying that they're gonna come and get revenge on Danny. You either take care of it or we will. Churchill meeting with Campbell. They talk about what does he know so far. I mean, he's only been there a fucking day. Give him a break. He's saying, keep this on the down low. This is Churchill talking. I cannot have this getting out in the media. Please just shut the hell up about it, okay? You be quiet. In this next scene, we get to meet Curly. He's one of my favorites. He helps take care of the horses. He also works very close with Charlie Strong. He's basically like a horse trainer. Charlie tells Tommy that there isn't a full moon, actually, and that he can go ahead and move the crate of the stolen guns. But then Tommy is like, no, because I see this as a business opportunity. I'm gonna keep these guns. Therein lies the problem. We now have stolen guns on our hands. We find out Grace Burgess here is a spy. This is, she's working with Inspector Campbell. They meet up at like a museum to basically assess where they're at, the game plan, go over everything that's going to be happening. Her father, a member of the royal, what would you call him? He worked for the king, an agent of the crown. That's what it is. He also worked with Inspector Campbell. Inspector Campbell was like, I loved your dad. Your dad was the best, but he died. The IRA shot him, which IRA stands for Irish Republican Army. We'll talk about them throughout the series. She thinks that Arthur is not the one that's really in charge of the Blinders, because at this point, the reason why Campbell brought Arthur in to beat the shit out of him was because he was like, well, you're the oldest, so you must be in charge. Not the case. Grace is like, I think Tommy is the one that's calling the shots here. And she also says that she thinks the IRA are the ones that took the guns. And then Campbell's like, well, you can't let your personal feelings, your dad, cloud your judgment of what is really going on, because Campbell's totally sold that it's the Blinders. So Tommy brings Danny. They go to a little river. Tommy is explaining to Danny, the Italians, they saw you kill this man and they need retaliation, so I told them that I would do it. Otherwise, they'll cut your balls off and let you bleed out through your wang. Just let me do it, okay? Danny's having a moment where he's like, I left myself in France. I'm not me anymore. He's kind of accepting the fact. He says, take care of my boys, but don't let them get involved in this life, but make sure they're set up to do something else and look after his wife. Don't bury me near any mud. Put me on a hill. The Italian men are over here watching. Tommy's standing behind Danny like this. Pop! Shots fired. Danny falls into a boat that's passing by that is being driven by Charlie. Curly's in it too. The Italian men see that and they're like, thank you, and they leave. Well, what had happened. Tommy filled the bullet that he shot with sheep's brain and shot it at Danny, so he didn't die. He wakes up a couple hours later and Curly is telling him Tommy's got a job for him in London to do, so that's where they're sending him. Arthur tells Tommy that Monahan boy won his race, and so they start going back and forth about how Tommy fixed the race and it's not safe to do with Billy Kimber. Tommy's like, we'll have him in our pockets. We're gonna fix the race so he won this one, he's gonna win the next one, and then when they keep thinking that he's gonna keep winning, he's gonna lose. So he's gonna have people bet on another horse that will win the race and then have Monahan boy lose so then they can scoop up all that money. First episode ends with Aunt Polly asking Tommy, did you do the right thing? He says, I did the right thing. He did not get rid of the guns like she's thinking, but he did the right thing in his mind. Anyway, episode 2. So there's another family called the Lee family, and they're a bunch of gypsies. They go and see Johnny Dogs. They're going to go buy a horse. Flip a coin. Johnny's like, all right, give me the keys to the car. Arthur's like, are you fucking kidding me? You just lost our car. Tommy's like, don't worry, I won. So he promised Johnny he could drive around their car while they go to a race or something like that. When they turn to leave, the Lees make a comment about their mother being a whore gypsy, and so that pisses them off. They take off their hats. They go, oh, what? And then, ooh, not the hat hair. But that's where we find out Peaky Blinders are called the Peaky Blinders because they hide razor blades in the brims of their hats, and they use it to beat the shit out of people and blind them with the razor blades. They begin a brawl, and not a brawl, they brawl. So now there's really there's some tension between the Lees and the Shelbys. Campbell leads the rest of the police. But they lead a raid through the streets of Birmingham looking for the stolen guns in everybody's house. They tear it up, they throw things out in the street, and then they go to Freddie Thorne's house. Well, Freddie's there and he's sleeping with Ada. They hear there's a raid going on. Freddie takes Ada to a friend's house and says, let her stay here because I need to leave. They're looking for me. I gotta go. Anyway, so they dip. Sergeant Moss finds a piece of paper for Ada for some like iron pills, so like a medical piece of paper that has her name on it so they know that she's been there. Campbell meets Polly at a church, and then that's where we also find out, because Aunt Polly, she don't mess around. She will be up front. She calls out Inspector Campbell for not serving in the war. That becomes a very big riff. It really ruffles his feathers when people bring that up, because it's like, how dare you say you're for this country and for the king and you didn't even fucking serve. That will play against him too in other ways. That's where he tells Polly to get in touch with Tommy, to tell Tommy to meet him. I feel like I'm playing telephone. Polly has a meeting with all the Shelbys, and she says that Inspector Campbell tells everybody else that the Blinders gave the police permission to raid everybody's house, which is not true. They just did it anyway. That's what Campbell's telling everybody, so that everybody will hate them. Tommy says that he's not going to talk to Campbell right away. He's going to send a blowback, strike a blowback. That made me think of, did y'all watch Jackass? I watch Jackass way too much, but when they do the blowback...
This is the blowback.
The blowback in question. Retaliation, I guess is a better word. He tells everybody and get all of the pictures of the king that they can find from everybody's home. Who was the king at this time? Chat, let me know down below. Who's the king? King George the... Is that the 5th? And we're going to have a big bonfire. We're going to light it. And then Tommy invites someone from the press to write an article about what's going on so it can send a message. Tommy's like, they sent us to war, and how do they repay us? By having people come by and tear up our homes. And not in a good way. Not tear it up like, yeah, tear it up. Churchill gets wind of this. And so he calls up Campbell and he's like, I told you to keep this shit out of the paper. Get it together, you bitch. Here's more tea. Here's more drama. Polly sits with Ada one morning and she goes, stand up. And then Polly goes up to her, grabs her boobs. Bitch, you're pregnant. Ada says she's about 7 weeks late. Thought it was something to do with her iron, so that's why she had the iron pills and stuff like that. No, ma'am, you are pregnant. You are pregnant. Polly's like, we need to go take you to get an abortion. Not funny. Not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because I'm uncomfortable by it. She says, I've had this problem before, and I got rid of it myself, and it nearly killed me. I think Polly was like 17 or so. We're going to take you somewhere where it's safer, but you should probably get rid of it. Cut on that scene. Charlie talks to Tommy and shows him a bullet that has Tommy's name written on it, and it's from the Lees. Hang on, maybe I should write, and yeah, the expo marker is back. It's my designated writing on post-it expo marker. I'm not using it for anything else. What do I care? A lot of people were very triggered by the fact that I was using dry erase marker on paper. When I first started doing the American Horror Story video, I had bought a dry erase board thinking I would use that. So then I bought a pack of expo markers, but then I was like, nah, that, I'm not doing it. So then I had all these markers and I was like, well, damn, I might as well just use them. That's the story, bitch. I'm just putting this up here to represent the entire Lee family, but they have sent a message to Tommy with that bullet. Tommy and Grace, there's been a couple other scenes where Grace is singing in the garrison and Tommy walks in and Harry's like, wow, we haven't had singing in here in a long time. Tommy's like, well, why do you think that is? Tommy's a bit of a sourpuss. Grace speaks to him and says, I want to be able to sing one night a week in here if I can. A lot of the men really like it. He agrees, and then he also says, well, while you're at it, pick out a nice dress, because I'm taking you to the races. Polly tells Tommy Ada is pregnant, and now Tommy is thinking, this motherfucker is just using Ada to get close to us, and now, he's having his kid. Of course, he's going to be tied to the family. So he ain't happy. He thinks it's all Freddy's plan. Well, Tommy was right, and in the third race, Monahan boy lost. So the Blinders have now got heaps and heaps of money that are coming in. Tommy says that they're going to use that money and give it back to the people of Birmingham. Well, Tommy gets a letter from Polly, from Ada, explaining to Freddy about what's going on. Can you give this to Freddy if you find him, if you know where he's staying at? Tommy lights the f***ing letter on fire. So now Tommy and Campbell are meeting, and then Campbell says that he knows that Ada is sleeping with Freddy, who is at the top of his hit list, which in turn makes Ada a suspect as well. Tommy makes a deal with Campbell and asks for his men to leave the Blinders alone and look the other way when it comes to their gambling and business operations. He's wanting to go into business at the racetracks legally and wants Campbell to tell Kimber's police protection to stand down when he makes his move. And then, in return, he will give him the guns. Arrangements made for the guns to be taken to Belfast and sold to the IRA. Oh my God, it scared the shit out of me. This is going to hell in a handbag. God help me. Let's try this again. So anyway, Tommy tells Inspector Campbell that he's arranged for the guns to be picked up and taken to Belfast if he's arrested. And once his business is finished with Kimber, then he'll get the guns back, and Campbell agrees to that. That was all I needed to say. Grace and Campbell meet up again to kind of recap what's going on. He's like, I'm sorry to have to do this to you, but I want you to get as close as you can to Tommy to see if you can get any information out of him. Well, the horse that the Lees gave to Tommy, Curly has been looking after the horse, and he calls Tommy and that horse is cursed. Something's wrong with it. Charlie says there's an infection in the horse's hoof, and by morning it's going to spread everywhere. This horse is sick. Tommy tells them to leave. He pulls out his gun, and unfortunately, bop, he puts down the horse. Well, then he goes to the garrison. Grace is there. Any edit you see of Tommy and Grace will have this scene. I promise you. Grace is like, are you all right? He says, I just had to kill my horse. He tells her that in France, he was never fazed really by seeing the men die, but he couldn't handle watching any of the horses die. He's very affectionate towards the horses. He always has been. As a kid, he wanted to work with horses. They're still going to the races, and so Tommy asks if she's bought a dress yet, and she says, yes, but I want more money so I can buy a nicer dress. There's a flirtatious vibe going on between the two of them. Tommy calls her out, says that she's lying about where she's from. He says, I bet you're from a nice family. You ended up getting pregnant and they obviously wouldn't approve, so you left where you're from. And she, being a spy, is like, yeah, I'll go with it. I'll roll with it. And also it's kind of a parallel to what he thinks that Ada's, what's going on in her life, getting pregnant and then she may run away. He asks her to sing a song for her. And, okay, this is the scene that you'll see in all the edits. Grace gets up on the table and she's like, I can do her accent. Happy or sad? And he says, sad. And she says, all right, but I warn you, it'll break your heart. And he says, already broken.
Already broken.
It's talked about just briefly. Tommy was in love with a woman before he went to war, but she got really sick and ended up dying. So I think that might be what he's talking about, like my heart's already broken. So Polly and Ada are at the train station. Freddy shows up. Yay, he's come back. And Ada the whole time has been telling Polly, he loves me, he'll come back. Polly's like, they don't ever come back. Look at my life. That man did not come back at all. Freddy does show up. He's like, hey, I love you. Let's get married. Proposes. Ada's like, well, come on, let's go ahead and get on the train. Freddy, he's like, I'm not afraid of your family, and I'm not afraid of Tommy either, so we're staying here. Oh my God, okay, now Billy Kimber, him and his men come into the garrison looking for Tommy. He tells them that they notice very suspicious betting patterns with their horse. He calls them out for fixing a race. Tommy shows the bullet from the Lees and says that Kimber also has beef. He doesn't say beef. That's not a phrase that they would have used. They also have beef with the Lees, so maybe they can work together, and he offers help as protection. Kimber's bookie tells them that they're going to the races, and Tommy tells everybody else, we're off to the races. Episode 3. Well, Tommy's meeting with just two men. They said they heard rumors about the guns, and they're asking Tommy about it. One of them starts singing to Tommy. Grace is sitting outside the door listening in. She hears him asking about the gun. When they leave, Grace ends up following. She finds one of them somewhere drunk on the side of the street street. He gets a little handsy with her. Not a little, a lot of handsy with her. And so she pulls out a gun that Campbell gave to her as protection, and she shoots him dead. Campbell gets in touch with her and he's like, what the no, why did you do that, you idiot? Campbell thought that Grace shot the man because he was IRA. Ada and Freddie are getting married. Well, Tommy tells Polly that Freddie getting out of Birmingham was part of the deal with Campbell. So now that he's staying around, shit's getting fucked. So Tommy tells Polly that she needs to find a way to get Freddie out of Birmingham, or get him out of the country. Go somewhere else. Or Tommy will take care of it. They'll probably kill each other if that happens. Polly visits Ada and Freddie and tells them to get a train ticket, go somewhere else, go to America. She gives him some money, like 200 pounds. So he says, can I just sleep on it? Because they keep berating him. Ada's all ready to go. She's like, yeah, I'm tired of this place. We can go to America. They've already had their revolution. Tommy warns Kimber that the Lees are going to be at the races and they're planning an ambush on Kimber and his men. Arthur's sitting in a church and he's getting emotional. Arthur seems like he'd be the hard brass, but he is completely I think he's probably the softest out of all of them. Even Finn getting really emotional because he's like, people think that I'm in charge and then they ask me all these questions and I don't know the answers. People are asking about the guns. I don't know anything about the guns. People are asking about this man that just got shot, won by Grace, and I don't know what's going on with that. Anyway, so Tommy tells him, like, we have the guns, we have the meats, and that he also go in and purchase the garrison for Arthur. They buy it from Harry, so Arthur's gonna run the garrison. Like, yeah, okay, sure. What the hell, sure. Moss is speaking with Tommy. Now remember, Moss is one of those police officers Peaky Blinders pay off, telling Tommy that they need to turn Ada in or she'll get arrested for sedition. Then we see Freddie he's got a gun pointed at Tommy's head and he gives him the 200 pounds back. Tommy gets his gun out too. They're having a regular Mexican standoff. Tommy tells Freddie that he thinks that he only got Ada pregnant because he wants to be closer to the family. But then Freddie goes in to say, oh, it's so sweet that he's loved Ada since she was 9 and he was like 12. He fell in love with her and he felt protective over her ever since they were kids and that he really does love her. But then he also says that their marriage will not stand. Danny Whizbang comes back. He's over here. He says that all the way in London, people have heard about the man, the IRA man, and they think that it's the Blinders that did it. But Tommy's like, that shit ain't us. Go back and tell them that they're wrong. There's a misunderstanding. Then ask him for a parlay. Parlay? Damn to the depths, what have a man thought of parlay? Sorry, I don't know where I just went there. Whoa, what the did I write? I'm gonna read you what I wrote. What I wrote was, the Blinders visit the Lees before going to the races. They rough them up and show Kimber how they roll. Tommy was not involved in that brawl. It was the rest of the Blinders. But Tommy and Grace go to the races. They enter through the back way. Well, Tommy tells Grace to introduce herself as Lady Sarah of wherever the and say that he is Russian and he doesn't speak English at all. So they go and they have a little dance and stuff. It's really cute. Arthur brings all the money that they scooped up from fighting with the Lees. He brings the money in bags and drops it with Tommy. Tommy goes and takes it to Kimber and he's like, here's your money that the Lees would have taken from you. We saved it. You're welcome. And then he proves to him that his protection is failing, that he's hired his police force. Tommy says that the Peaky Blinders will work with them in exchange for 5% of all the takings from the races, 3 legal betting pitches at each race. And then Kimber's like, fine, but I want to dance with your girl. Why don't I take her to my place for a couple of hours and then you can come pick her up when you're done, okay? And you can have my wife for a spin if you'd like. So he kind of briefly runs it by Grace and he's like, hey, sorry about this, but he's gonna take you home. He kind of wants to get a little action in. Okay. Tommy takes Kimber's wife, his girl, I don't even know if that was his wife or not, and they go sit in a car somewhere while they're waiting for 2 hours to pass by. Tommy kind of just gets antsy and he's like, oh, this, never mind. So then they head to Kimber's place where Kimber has been getting very, very aggressive and hands-on. Tommy runs in there and he's like, never mind, sorry, I can't let you go through with this. In good conscience, I can't let you continue having any sexual intercourse with this woman. She's a whore with a clap. He's like, we don't have to talk about this, but 5%? Still 5%, huh? So him and Grace leave. Grace is like, what the f***? So she says, why did you change your mind and why did you come back for me? The episode ends. We don't get an answer. You know, it's because he's starting to fall in love with her. Freddie and Ada come back from their little honeymoon in London. Freddie is seen giving 200 pounds to somebody. His name is Stanley Chapman. He's a communist. Freddie got the 200 pounds from the Russian embassy. Okay, more on that later. That's just how the episode starts. All the Shelbys are gathering up to have a family meeting. They tell one of the bookies, his name is Scudboat, watch the place. We need a couple minutes to have a family meeting, okay? While they're gone, the Lee family is outside waiting to attack. There's a little boy running around that somehow gets into the Shelby's betting den, the betting hall. So then he's able to unlock the door and let the Lees in, start beating the at a scud boat. Anyway, at the family meeting, John has called the family meeting because he's saying he's got 4 kids and his wife has died. A single father as of right now. It's beginning to get to be too much. I need a wife that can also be a mother to the kids. They're like, yeah, sure, go for it. Who are you thinking of? He says, Lizzie Stark. Gorgeous, gorgeous girl. Gorgeous, gorgeous girls love soup, are the coolest in the chicken coop. Origin story here. Lizzie is a whore. She's a hooer. She is the town prostitute. Lizzie becomes one of my favorites. She really changes her life around. Not to spoil it too much. As of first season, she is just a town puss. The rest of them and Polly laugh and make fun of him because they're like, what? Why would you want to marry her? She's been with every person. He's like, I don't want to hear it and don't call her anything because that's not who she is anymore. Anyway, they give him a hard time about it. And Finn runs in telling Tommy what has happened at the betting hall. So they come back and they find wire cutters. Tommy, Arthur, and John are like, there's a hand grenade in here somewhere. They kind of deduce it's not inside the building because it would have blown up by now. Tommy runs outside. Finn has gotten into Tommy's car and he's pretending to be Tommy. And so Tommy is like, get out of the car, but do it so slowly. And they get out just in time, but they did plant grenade in the car. The Lees did. Are you following along? Johnny Dogs. He leads Tommy with a white flag to the Lees to speak with a woman who's in charge. I don't remember her name. She's not around for very long. Speak with her about a truce to make a deal to use the Lees to help go after Kimber's men. And then he reminds the lady that his mother is Gypsy and that they're kin. They agree. Polly gets an address from an anonymous acquaintance. Says that she has a strategy in mind. So she gives it to Tommy and tells him, give it to Campbell. It's Stanley. You remember the one that Freddie gave the money to from the Russian embassy? It's his address. And then Campbell tells Tommy that he gives him his word that Ada and Freddie will not be harmed and they will be able to leave the city if, when they go and make the attack. He also tells Tommy to hurry up with the business with Kimber. You need to step on it, bud, because Churchill's breathing down my neck. I need to get these guns. Hurry the hell up. Get out! Get out! Like, if I'm fired by Churchill because I'm not moving fast enough finding these guns, you will not hear the end of this. So Stanley Chapman is arrested. Sergeant Moss asks Campbell about his promise and his word to keep Ada and Freddie out of, they can go ahead and leave. And then Campbell's like, boy, f*** that. He says that he doesn't care about promises. Promises are for pansies. They're for pussies. He's gonna find Freddie and hang him. I don't know what it'll do with him. Arrest him at least. Well, Polly finds Freddie at his mother's grave. She was the one that tipped Campbell off about Stanley. They're gonna interrogate him and get his address and find out where Freddie's at. Freddie's like, we don't tell each other our addresses. So you just condemn this man to die. He doesn't even know anything, so there we are. Well, the police end up in their interrogation of Stanley. They end up beating him to death. He had like a seizure or like a hemorrhage or something like that, and he dies. Campbell tells Sergeant Moss, just toss his body down the stairs somewhere and make it look like he just broke his neck or something. Kimber gives Tommy an official betting license, so now they're legal. And Grace is helping Arthur keep the books of the garrison. She's doing some math for him and crunching some numbers, but she pulls out a shipment of cigarettes and she's like, these cigarettes smell like shit. And they're eaten away by rats. Where are y'all storing these things? She's kind of asking a lot of questions. Well, word gets to Tommy that she's been asking some questions. He takes her to a church. He's like, you're a Catholic girl, right? She's like, yes, of course. I grew up Catholic. They go and they sit down. They have a big conversation. And he's like, I know you're lying to me because any Catholic girl would come in and make the sign of the cross when she came in, and you didn't. He's like, you've lied to me twice already. Oh my God. And sees that if she wants to help keep the books and to be a face, if he needs to have a nice looking face to show around, Well, anyway, they end up smooching. Tommy plants a wet one on her. They kiss. She ends up agreeing to work for the... Yes! On the way back home, sees Lizzie walking down the street and he offers her some money for one last hoorah. He's like, I got some money for you if you want to have one last go around and then you can go be with John. And she's like, okay. And then he says, you know what? You take the money, get out. And I'm telling John about this. Oh, Tommy, you're about to ruin this girl's life. John is at home cleaning the car because he's like, I'm going to go take Lizzie out for a drive in the country and I'm going to ask her to marry me. Tommy's like, well, brother, let me tell you what just happened. He tells him what happened. You can do what you want, but just so's your nose. He doesn't go after her. He gets very upset. Tommy asks Grace to deliver an invite to Ada. Well, Ada's just pissed off at Tommy. She doesn't want to see Tommy at all, or any of the family really, because she thinks Tommy hates Freddie and is trying to get him out of the country. Tommy uses Grace to get Ada to come to a family event. What's happening, you may ask? Well, Tommy finds John smoking on his opium and he's like, I got a surprise for you. We're gonna make you feel better. They go down to the Lee family campground. John is thinking, oh, we're gonna have a little rumble or something. They all give John a flower to put into his shirt, and they say, "It's your wedding day." Huh? They say, "We've got a marriage set up for you." They have a young girl, the Lee family does. Remember when Tommy had that meeting with the lady, the gypsy lady? This was part of the deal. Tommy's like, "Fucking do this so we can have some peace between these two families, and she can be the mother of your kids." John agrees to it. He gets married to a woman named Esme. They're having a real hootenanny of a time. They're having a real shindig. Ada has shown up. She's getting rip-roaring drunk. Where do I put... Oh, God, I should have put you up near John, but I don't have enough room. Ada is drunk out of her mind. Not recommended while you're pregnant, by the way. And while she's dancing around, she goes, "Oh, shit. My water broke." She's going into labor, girls. And you know what? This is like one of my favorite lines from Arthur. He just goes, "Oh, Ada, you do choose your times."
Why the bloody hell you do pick your times?
Has her baby. Tommy tells Polly that they can call Freddie and have him come there. They go to the garrison to drink. Grace is there. She asks, like, kind of offhandedly, like, "What's going on?" They're talking, saying that Freddie can go see Ada. Oh, shit. Grace calls up Campbell and says Freddie is going to be at the house where Ada's giving birth at. You know what to do. Oh, God. Ada gives birth. She has a boy. They name him Carl after Karl Marx. Freddie goes in there and he sees his child just for a minute. Campbell and his boys come in and arrest him. So then everybody else is thinking, especially Polly and Ada, they think it's Tommy that called the police when he didn't. But he kind of did, in a way. He didn't mean to. She goes up to Tommy like, "You're a fucking liar." And that's where the episode ends. So at the top of the next episode, Polly is dropping off food for Ada, who's locked herself up in the house. Freddie, he's been in jail and he's been beaten up pretty damn bad. Like interrogations and stuff like that, asking about the guns, which he doesn't know anything about the guns, really just barking up the wrong tree. Arthur and John go to a local fight club, but then they hear a voice. That sounds like Dad. It is their dad. Their dad's name is also Arthur, and I didn't print off his picture because he's not here for long. Sorry. Arthur Jr., he is very much, he wants his dad to be around. He knows he's not a good person. I don't know, he wants to start a relationship up again. The rest of them and Aunt Polly fucking hate him. Oh, well, Finn's kind of doesn't know any better. Arthur shows up so that scene's over with. Arthur goes to the garrison and gets some money out of the register and tells Grace to not tell Tommy that he's getting money. And Grace is asking more questions. She sees some money going out. It's going to Danny in London. Arthur tells him that the grave that Danny's buried in is empty because he's over in London. Okay? She's like, "You don't say." So Arthur and Finn go meet up with their dad again at Fight Club, and the dad tells him he's wanting to get involved in casinos and hotels in America, in Boston. So Arthur tells him that he wants to help him start, so he's going to get him some money so they can all leave and go start over there in America. And then they fight each other. And I guess that's just their way of saying I love you. There's a man named Byrne from Camden Town. He meets with Tommy about the man that was shot, the IRA man with a gray shot. He said that Danny, he got drunk and ran his mouth. Well, Tommy's like, "Well, you can't trust a thing he says. He has these episodes. He thinks he's in France in a tunnel. What makes you think you can trust what he says?" Where am I at? So Byrne begins to threaten him, saying to give him the guns or he's going to kill everybody. Then Tommy tells him that he has the guns and he's willing to sell it for the right price. And Tommy turns around and gives Campbell Byrne's name. He can sell the guns to Byrne, and then Campbell can swoop in and bust Byrne for having the guns. And then he also asked Campbell to let people know in London that the Blinders had nothing to do with killing that IRA man. Arthur, the father, the dad, comes by, picks up the money. Well, you find out it's all a farce. Well, he is going to Boston, but he's not gonna start casinos and hotels. He's just blowing smoke up your ass, Arthur. It kind of breaks Arthur's heart, but basically the dad just gets the money and dips on them again. My dad went to go get cigarettes and then he got on a boat and never came back. Okay, now this part is tea. Tommy goes into the garrison, locks it up, tells Grace, "I'm sorry to do this to you, but I need your help. Some IRA men that are coming. When I make a toast, I need you to come out and point this gun at them." And she's like, "Huh?" He says, "I'm gonna make a deal. When I make a toast, I need you to come out and just point this gun. Don't shoot it, but just point it." That he doesn't want to kill them because the police need him alive. Two men come in. Tommy gives them the address. Tommy makes the toast. Grace comes out and she just starts opening fire. Like, ma'am, he told you to do one thing. Don't shoot him. She shoots one dead. The other one starts attacking Tommy. He ends up beating the living hell and life out of this man and killing him. And so then they have a moment. They have a moment where they embrace each other. And why Why did you do that? Now you've seen me. And she says, and you've seen me. And they're in love. They are so in love. And Sergeant Moss comes in and Tommy's yelling at him because he's like, you were supposed to come in on the third chime of whatever time it was. So now they're dead. Here you go. He tells them the men were never there. This never happened. Oh my God, y'all. We're 4 minutes away. The app is gonna close. My friends are sending me texts saying like, the app is closing. TikTok, I mean. Oh. Now Campbell and Grace are meeting and he's concerned that she is getting way too involved and way too into Tommy. Then she says that she thinks she knows where the guns are hiding. It's Danny's grave. There's no body in there, but it's full of guns. You bitch! Campbell and his men dig up the grave. Sure enough, they find all of the guns except one. They're missing a machine gun. But then he says, all right, well, now our business is done. He's talking to Grace. He says, now our business is done, so I don't feel bad in asking you, do you want to marry me? God, oh my God. I'm not really looking for love. I just want mutual, what does he say? Mutual understanding that we're like minds. And she's like, no, I'm sorry, can't read the room. You're old and icky. So then he starts asking if it's Tommy that's coming in between him and her. She doesn't really give an answer, which kind of answers it for her. Oh, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. Shall we open up the app? Oh no. Oh no, guys! Ah! I'm sorry to distract us. I'm sorry to interrupt the story. Sorry, TikTok isn't available right now. This is the worst. A law banning TikTok is enacted in the US. Unfortunately, that means you can't use TikTok for now. I love how this sounds like something my manager would text out to our group chat. President Trump has indicated that he will work with us on a solution to reinstate TikTok. Fuck. I can't even click out of it. No! My night is ruined. You know what? I'm turning it off. Goodbye. We're done. Oh, that's not even the point of this video. Bye, TikTok. So Campbell, he tells Moss that they're gonna go raid the Shelby household and the garrison. Grace tells Tommy, you can come stay at my house. Come hide out while they're raiding the place. When Campbell finds out that Grace is with Tommy at her place, because he's outside looking in the windows and he's like, damn it. He calls off the raid. He's like, never mind, just forget it. Well, this is where Tommy and Grace finally have thick. And he says that he doesn't hear the shovels anymore when he's with her. So in his PTSD dreams, he was hearing shovels from in the tunnels hitting against the walls. When he's with her, he doesn't hear the shovels anymore. Isn't that sweet? You just see that he's completely fallen head over heels in love with her. Arthur, you know, he's dealing with his father just up and leaving again. He tries to K-word himself. He tries to hang himself. It doesn't work. The rope snaps and he falls. And Tommy goes to see him and he's like, well, what do you want me to say? It's like, I don't feel sorry. Do you want me to hug you or what? You need to grow up. Nut up, boy. Tommy gives him a business card that they had printed out, all the Shelby brothers. And he's like, you get a third, I get a third, John gets a third. Me and John will happily share your third if you die. So, all right, season 1 finale, right here, right now. Let's go. Inspector Campbell goes to that Chinese wash house that's also a brothel, and he ends up having sex with a prostitute, and he gets very rough with her. He's just an awkward man. I don't know what you want out of this situation. You're just weird. You're weird, and you're smelly. No, while that's going on, I just want you to keep that in mind. Didn't just bring that up for no reason. Sergeant Moss has a letter from Campbell to give to Grace, basically saying that how he is so disappointed in her for fraternizing with the enemy. Like, what would your father say about you? Tommy tells all the Shelbys and all the Peaky Blinders that today they're going to the races to attack Kimber. And the Shelbys go pick up their suits from the wash house and they run into Campbell there. Awkward. Tommy confronts him, thinking he'll tell who talked about the guns, but he don't say nothing. Oh my God, it's so... Ooh! Ada's still down in the dumps about Freddie. He's in the can. Polly starts talking to Ada about her own children, that she did have 2 children at one point. She had a boy and a girl. One was named Anna, and she was 3 when they were taken away. Michael was 5. She says that she stole some sheets from a hotel she was working at as one bitch that was at the church. The woman noticed that she stole some sheets from a nice hotel, and so for that, they took her kids. Tommy says that Kimber thinks the Lees are going after him and his men, but now the Lees and the Shelbys are working together to ambush Kimber. Well, the police say that they're moving Freddie to another prison called Brixton, and he's like, I cannot fucking go to Brixton. Stop. It's a plot. One of the men on the police force has been paid by Tommy when they're in transit to get Freddie freed. Danny comes out. He comes out of the back of the truck that's taking Freddie, and he's got the stolen machine gun. You remember they dug up all the guns and they were missing one? Well, Danny had it. And so he comes out, machine gun blazing. You know that thing about most boys can make a machine gun noise. I can't do it. And I don't think a lot of girls can do it. That's the best I can do. That's the one thing I'll give you. Yeah, men, okay. Come through with the machine gun noise. Well, Tommy tells Grace that she will be allowed to come to the next family meeting. Oh my God, things are getting so serious and he doesn't know. So they're all getting revved up to go to the race, right? To pick up the Lees, and they're going to go to the races with Kimber and stuff. But Grace is like, I'm not going to be here when you get back. Sorry? And Tommy's like, did I scare you? But she says, I've done something terrible to you. We see a man who's been around he's kind of in the background. His name's Jeremiah. He's like the town preacher. He floats around. He's kind of like a curly. He says that he's seeing Kimber's boys coming down the road. They're coming to ambush the Peaky Blinders. And so Tommy's like, I've sent the Lees to go to the race and we're going to meet them there. The Peaky Blinders are outnumbered to Kimber's men. And he goes to Polly and Ada and tells them to go into hiding. And Polly's like, it was probably Grace that told. The dots are being connected. So Polly confronts Grace before it hits the fan. She says that Tommy now knows that she was the one that told about the gun. And then Grace pulls out a gun, holds Polly at gunpoint for a minute. She asks if Grace has fallen in love with Tommy and she says yes. Polly says that Tommy may take her back, but she will never forgive Grace. You have crossed the wrong one. Polly tells her that she will kill Grace if she doesn't leave by morning. There's a big rumble that's going to be happening. Kimber's coming down. Campbell tells Sergeant Moss, we're not getting involved until afterwards. Then we'll go in and clean house. Okay, so here's the tea. Kimber and his men show up. They're having another Mexican standoff. Danny Whizbang and Freddie come out and they're holding that big machine gun and they're like, y'all want to around and find out? Ada comes by with her stroller and Carl in the stroller and she parks it in no man's land right in the middle and she's like, y'all can do what you want, but you all have wives, kids at home and family that care about you. Just think about that. And I'm gonna stand right here. If y'all want to shoot, go ahead. Okay, Ada, now's not the time. Well then it's not funny, but Kimber just gets fed up and he's like, oh f this. Bah! He shoots Tommy in the shoulder. They start shooting. Well, unfortunately, Danny Whizbang is shot. He is officially dead. Guess what I did, guys? I kind of wanted to do this for American Horror Story, but I just got too far into it and I was like, well, it doesn't make sense to do it now. I have printed off red X's for people that have died. As we stand here, I remember all the time Anyway, Danny's dead. Tommy just said he has a Kimber moment. He's like, oh, this. Bah! He shoots Kimber in the head, in the noggin, and Kimber is dead. He died. Then Tommy's just like, everybody needs to just fucking go home. Just leave. So Grace is talking to Campbell and she asks him what he told Tommy. He told Tommy that his heart would be broken by the end of the day. Campbell says, you also have broken my heart, so you actually broke two. And she's like, well, add a third to that one because I've broken my own heart. Moss tells Campbell that the Peaky Blinders won the battle and that Freddie has gotten out of prison because of his orders to have no police out. No one from the police was there to witness Kimber's murder. The Shelbys will get away with it. How that is so. Tommy goes to see Grace. F***ing awkward. She tells him that she loves him. I don't know. If I were Tommy, I'd be like, what the f*** do I care? I guess because I can hold a grudge. That's on me? I don't know. But I can hold a grudge forever and always. She says that she loves him, but he says that there's no chance for them no matter what. And she says, wait, I gotta reenact it. She goes, here it comes, Tommy. I love you. And then he says, and there it goes, Grace. Away it goes. Sorry, I calmed down. She tells Tommy that she's going away to London and she wants him to come with her. Doesn't give her an answer right away. The Lees went to the race. They took all the bets and now the Shelby Company is the third largest legal racetrack operation. Wow, I can't spell at all. Spelled like at least 3 of those words wrong. And he says the only ones that are bigger than them are the Sabinis and the Solomons. We will talk about them in season 2. So Tommy writes a letter to Grace. He says he used to flip a coin with important decisions and so he'll flip a coin deciding whether or not he's going. Let her know his decision in 3 days. I'll spoil it for you. He ain't going. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. Campbell shows up at the train station where Grace is at and he's pointing a gun at her. It cuts to black because we're also cutting in between Tommy like flipping his coin. It cuts to black and we hear a gunshot go off. What happens? You're gonna have to wait and find out, bestie. We're gonna get into season 2. But I think I'm gonna just because I'm tired. I don't know why I thought it was a good idea to start this at 10 o'clock at night. Let me get my mind straight. I think I finally got everything settled in. God, that was a mess, wasn't it? My board was falling over. My computer was shutting off. The camera was fucking up. I can't read my own notes. Anyways, all right, sweaties. I'll see you in just a second. Okay, bye. Oh, I'm back. We are so back, bestie. It's another day for me. I look exactly the same. I'm well rested now. I feel like I'm in a better headspace. let's get back into it, okay? We're gonna get into season 2 of Peaky Blinders. Now, personally, I think this is where things really start to pick up. We get new characters involved. Season 2 is what really seals the deal for me, where like, okay, I'm locked in to the bitter end of this show. I'll get to him in a little bit, but there's a certain character in here that makes the whole show for me. Anyway, more on that later. I have moved some things all around on the board. This is gonna be our graveyard over here. Okay, I'm gonna move Lizzie, actually. You're moving up in the world, girl. Oh, maybe I should, maybe not. I'll keep her here. Just kidding, I lied. I'm keeping her where she was at. Moving Esme up because Esme and John are married. But do not get it twisted. John still cares quite a bit for Lizzie. Shall we get into it? The first episode opens up with the tail end of episode 6 from season 1. Because you remember, we heard a shot, but it went black. We don't know what happened. And Campbell is walking up to Grace, pointing a gun at her. Well, homegirl has got her handgun, the one that Campbell gave to her. She lifts up her bag, bop, shoots Campbell. Notice no X. We'll get to that in a minute. We're getting a time jump. 2 years later, it's 1921. The show actually, the timeline moves very fast. The next scene we see are 2 women rolling 2 baby carriages, 2 prams, right outside of the garrison. And they run away really quick and they blow up. Not the women, the carriages, the little cribs. They blow up the garrison. The garrison is up in flames. Already, we've got another death. Unfortunately, Freddie Thorne has died. Wah, wah, wah. Hey, yeah, yeah. Freddie is dead. He got sick with the Spanish influenza. I actually don't know. It seemed very like out of nowhere. So I don't know if the actor fell out of production or if that was already planned that was going to happen. I'm not sure, but we don't even see Freddie at all in this season. Yeah, he's gone. He's out of here. Ada, she's got their baby. His name is Carl. Remember him? She's at the funeral. Well, they're all at the funeral. Tommy asks her to come back, live with them. She's been living in London. She's planning an expansion, wants to expand the company. She's going to basically have a target on her back being in London. They're going to make some enemies. They're going to ruffle some feathers. He's like, I would feel more comfortable if you come back and stay with us. And she's like, no. She's like, I'm not a Shelby anymore, and I'm not a Thorne. Ada kind of gets on my nerves a little bit. Sometimes I'm like, get off the high horse and just do what you know what you should be doing. And then other times I'm like, yeah, slay. They all get word that the garrison is up in flames. Tommy and Aunt Polly go to the garrison. They meet with Sergeant Moss. Moss is asking Tommy, like, do you have any idea who could have done this? Tommy pays him off. Oh, it's just an accident. We had a gas problem. It's fine. Tommy knows it's more than that, and so does Moss, but he's like, I'll pay you to shut your damn mouth and tell people it was a freak accident. And Polly is searching around in the debris, and she finds confetti. Huh? It's a sign. Then Tommy goes to a pub. There's a little boy that runs in. He's like, which one of you are you? Wait, is there a blinder fella in here? So anyway, Tommy follows this little boy into like a slaughterhouse. They put a bag on his head. They take him to a room. Woman and a man sitting at a table waiting to talk to Tommy. We conclude that they're the ones that blew up the garrison. Well, the woman says that her name is Irene O'Donnell. And I wrote down the man's name, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. Anti-treaty, something or another. Anyway, but cut on that scene. We found out who blew up the garrison. Tommy's asking Sergeant Moss for his police force to clear an area for him for a couple of hours. Well, Sergeant Moss tells Tommy, Inspector Campbell, I think he's now Major Campbell. Anyway, but he's coming back into the city. He didn't die. Wolf's head cane that he walks with. He's got a bum leg, but he's leading a secret department. He's coming back to the city. Coming back to Birmingham. We see Campbell going to a jail, and there's a man that's been beaten and tortured, about to go get hanged for a murder. And the man said that he was told that if he gave up information, that he would be promised a pardon on his hanging by Campbell, whoever was in charge of the jail. The constable? Oh, it's a governor. But anyway, he's like, is that true? And Campbell's like, no, I don't know what he's talking about. But he makes a threat to never bring up that again, like that situation. So we just see he is turning into a rotten apple. He's such a bad person. God, one woman slights you. Oh, I should say, I've got another picture of Finn to add from 1919 to 1921. This is what he looks like now. Look at him now. Did I need to print off 2 pictures? Probably not, but I did. That's the same name as my mom's dog. Finn goes to get Arthur. Arthur's been going to that fight club ring or whatever, and he's been fighting the holy hell out of everybody, getting his frustration out, and damn near killing a lot of people. He's got a lot of pent-up aggression. Finn goes to get Arthur to come to a family meeting, and while they're waiting for Tommy to show up, John and Esme have been questioning why they need to shake up doing any business if everything's going fine. Why is there a need for an expansion? And Esme says that the wars in London are brutal and worries about the expansion with the Shelbys. And Tommy assures them that after a few weeks that any business they have in London will all be legal. It'll be fine. Just give it a minute. Let them cook. Tommy says the expansion is going to start in Newmarket when all of the London bosses are going to be at the races. Says the Italian gangs and the Jewish gangs, Solomons and Sabinis, they've been at war in London, and the Jewish gang needs allies. They need a foothold at the southern end of the Grand Union so they can pass some contraband through. So he's going to go try and make nice with the leader of the Jewish gang. The Jewish gang has Camden Town, and he will meet with Alfie Solomon. I'll show you him in a minute. Couldn't gather, he is my favorite character. I love Tom Hardy more than anybody. We see that Tommy and Lizzie have been fooling. He pays Lizzie, and she says, just once, I wish you wouldn't pay me. She's actually got some feelings. She's starting to care for Tommy, and she's like, you know, I would do this for you. He pays her anyway, so it makes her feel like a hooer. Anyway, she lets him know that she's been taking some typing classes, can type with her eyes closed. Tommy has her type up a message with her eyes closed. He's like, close your eyes and type this out. I need a receptionist. That's not what he says, but it's basically, he's like, Lizzie, just be the receptionist here. Help me organize my day, and I can pay you for that. And you can stop all the other work, all of the sex. No more sex. Unless it's with me. Polly, she's been having an interesting time. I think one of the last scenes we talked about in season 1, she was telling Ada about her kids that she had to give up. She goes to a seance. She goes to speak to a medium who's a gypsy, and a bunch of other people sitting around in a room. Explains, like, I'm here because I'm having this dream of a girl who would be my daughter's age at this point in time coming to see me, saying that she's passed away, and basically she thinks she's seeing her daughter dead. So she wants to get some clarification to see if that's true or not. Well, the medium tells her, yeah, she's dead. She comes out of there very upset. Well, Polly runs into Esme at the betting hall. Do we know what we're calling that thing now? Esme says, I know where you went to. I know you went to see this psychic. She's a fraud. It's fake. The man that sits in with her at her session, a lot of people think that he's just also a paying customer. He's not. And he moves the glass with a magnet or something like that. It's all fakes. Don't trust what she says. Tommy shoots a man called Eamon Duggan. Arthur starts taking some medicine, some morphine, to help him with his nerves, and Tommy tells him, you don't need that medicine. He pours it out. That he shouldn't take it, and that he needs him to be fully, like, I need you to be wired. I need you to be ready to strike. It up. John, Tommy, and Arthur bring Duggan's body out into the country to bury. And then the boys go to a club, well, new to them, a ragtime jazz lounge. It is electric in there. The drugs are sniffed. The booze is flowing. The band is bumping. People are having sex on the couch. I'll go in there, but Arthur's like, what the f*** is this noise?
What the f*** is that racket?
The waiter comes up to them and he's like, you guys need to leave. They say, why? He says, well, you're the Blinders, right? You're not welcome here because they don't have permission to be there from Sabini. Sabini owns the club. I can't remember what the f*** it's called. Doesn't matter. The Jazz Lounge. Sabini owns it. A big fight breaks out, roughing everybody up. And once the dust settles, he walks around and he's like, we did not come here to make enemies, but to make friends. If they want to join them, they know where to find them. And then, Alfie Solomon, he sends a telegram to Tommy asking, would you like to break bread or something like that? And then Polly is sitting with Tommy when he gets this telegram, and she says that Tommy has picked a side with the Solomons, is going to start a war with the Sabinis. Sabini's men have been waiting outside of Ada's house in London. She gets beat up. Tommy gets beat up by Sabini's men as well. So they're up shit's creek. And then this is where we get to see Mr. Sabini. Also, every time I see this show and I rewatch it, that's the dad from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And he tells Tommy he missed seeing him at his club. They pretty much pin Tommy up and they're almost about to kill him. Sabini has one of the men rip out Tommy's gold tooth and he says, look at that. I even know what you have in your mouth. I know every move you make. Every move you make. And Inspector Campbell comes by just as they're about to kill Tommy off. And then Sabini's men take off and Campbell's just there with Tommy. That's the end of the episode. Campbell is actually nice enough to get Tommy to a hospital. So it's been a couple of days, he's recovering, and Campbell goes to see him. He says the police found Duggan in a shallow grave, and he knows Tommy is the one that did it. But Tommy says that he heard that Grace has gone to New York. Remember, they're in like a tryst. It's kind of rubbing it in Inspector Campbell's face that he knows what's going on with Grace more, because Grace has been trying to keep in touch with Tommy. He says that Grace is in New York, married to a very rich man. Campbell threatens Tommy. He's going to give him over to police because he knows that he killed Duggan. Threatens to give him to the police once he gets better if he does not help. Well, Tommy ends up checking himself out of the hospital. He's supposed to be there for like another 2 or 3 weeks, but he's like, no, this, I'm done. He goes to Charlie and Curly and he says, I need a boat to get to London. They head to Camden Town. There he is, Alfie Solomons, my favorite character, the best character in the entire show. Fun fact, this is actually why I started watching this show. I'm a big Tom Hardy fan, so I was going through his filmography, watching basically everything that he's ever done. And so I got to the show Peaky Blinders, and I was like, what the hell is that? A whole TV show with Tom Hardy in it? Yes. Well, I found out that he's not a main character, but a significant role. And obviously, he gets the biggest picture because I love him. And maybe I'm being biased, I don't know, but I think he has the funniest scenes too. Alfie is the leader of the Jewish gang in Camden Town. Alfie and Tommy meet in Alfie's bakery. They call it the bakery. They're making rum. He calls the rum the bread. He says, would you like to try some brown bread or some white? So he tries the brown and he's like, how is it? Tommy's like, yeah, it's all right. It's pretty good. He's like, it's shit, mate. That's for the workers. And he says, white? Now that's for the elite. So they have their meeting and Tommy tells Alfie that Sabini is winning the war against them because he's got more police on his payroll. Sabini does. Tommy offers to join forces with Alfie, with Solomon's, the Peaky Blinders, and everybody come together. And then Alfie reminds him, he's like, aren't you the one that killed Billy Kimber? And he's like, yes. So he's like, how the am I going to trust you that you won't turn around and kill me? Then he asks him to tell him his plan, and then we cut on that scene. Tommy ends up finding Ada in London. They have a conversation about both of them getting beat the hell up. He gives her a key to a new house that he bought her, and it's out of Sabini's jurisdiction, so they have no reason to go over there to where she's at. We start seeing Sabini. He's talking to one of his men. He's very paranoid, which, I mean, I don't blame him. He expresses concerns that the police that he's hired are corrupt and they're working against him. It's Polly's birthday. Happy birthday, Queen. So for her birthday, the Shelby boys get together and they bring Polly to this new house and they say, it's yours. Doesn't seem very thrilled by it. She's like, what am I going to do with all this shit? What am I going to do with all these rooms? Tommy tells all the boys to go wait outside and he talks to her and says, Esme told me what you were doing with the gypsy psychic and I know you're looking for your kids. I'm going to help you find them. He says, I'll help you find them so that they can come and live with you in this big house. We see Churchill meeting with Campbell and Churchill is reading out a letter that Tommy has written him about Campbell giving him a mission that has not been specified. He tells him about how he served in the war. Remember, that kind of grinds his gears because he didn't serve. He served in the war like Churchill and expects some respect. Churchill ends up guilting Campbell because he's like, how many people in this room served in the war? And everybody in the room lifts their hands up except Campbell. And so he's like, So Tommy then asks if he could be granted an Empire export license, and Churchill agrees for a temporary license until, the whole business is over with. Tommy found out about Polly's kids, goes to meet her son, Michael, if he can talk to him, but the mom comes out and is like, you need to fucking leave. Michael comes out there and he speaks with Tommy just very briefly. Tommy just is like, your real mother is still alive and she would love to get in contact with you. So, put a bug in your ear, I'm just saying. Arthur is at his fight club thingy again, and he beats a man to death. A little kid, really. He's like only 18, 19 years old. Finn and another boy I haven't really talked about at all. His name is Isaiah Jesus. I actually don't know if Jesus is really their last name. When I looked up pictures, they were saying it was the last name, and I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Isaiah is Jeremiah's son, so him and Finn are very close in age. Well, after Arthur beats the hell out of that one kid, Finn and Isaiah are sitting in Tommy's office, and Tommy's like, what the happened? I don't really want to say what had happened. Tommy's like, well, I just saw the body and it looks like a wild animal just attacked him. And then Finn tells Tommy that Arthur, when he's going, he is lost in the sauce. Doesn't know who he is. He doesn't stop until the anger subsides. Well, Tommy speaks with Arthur. It gets pretty intense. They grapple with one another. Tommy says he's done with all this bullshit. Figure this shit out on your own because I'm done. But basically, Tommy's like, man, I don't have time. They don't leave things on a good note. Campbell calls out Sergeant Moss by being paid off by Tommy, and he starts to blackmail him. So then Tommy gets in touch with Polly. He lets her know what he found out about her kids. Her daughter Anna did end up dying. Ever since she went into the system and got scooped up by an adopted family, he said that she was always running away, and they ended up sending her all the way to Australia to be reformed pretty much, but then got spring fever over there and died. Polly is like, so my baby traveled all the way across the world to come see me in my dreams. Just really sad. Tommy says there's still good news. Michael is alive and I went and saw him. His mother that he's with will not let him leave. And he's almost 18. leave it alone for a little bit and maybe he'll come and find you on his own time. Finn goes to see Arthur because they're reopening the garrison. Remember, Arthur's in charge of the garrison. But Arthur's like, no, I'm not going. I'm just going to sit here and stare at the fire and get drunk. And Finn says, you know, we have something that the boys, the young men, like to do. They call it Tokyo. It's just good old-fashioned booger sugar, some Bolivian marching powder, cocaine. Tommy tells him, like, it's just for special occasions. You cannot be doing it all the time. Well, we know how that's gonna go. Polly, she's upset with Tommy because Tommy won't tell her about where Michael is at. She goes to the garrison, rip-roaring drunk, blasted. Final scene of the episode, we see Polly going home to her house. Well, it's actually early in the morning. She was out all night showing leg. I don't know. She looks up and she sees Michael. And Michael is like, I'm looking for Elizabeth Grey. He says, I think that may be my mother. Oh, my mother. So there is an Irish man that is killed in the middle of the street. Okay, yeah, I'm alright. This is the new episode. Episode 3. There's an Irish man that gets killed in the middle of the street, and Moss is asking if the IRA are turning on one another. He's asking Campbell this. In another scene, the Peaky Blinders are looking for extra help, new hires, if you will. Young boy comes in, maybe 18 or so, and he says that his name is Digbeth Kid, kind of like Billy the Kid. He says that he has no criminal record. But Tommy's like, well, that's fine. Can use you as what do they call it? A stand-up. Police need to reach a quota. You'd ever been driving around somewhere at the end of the month and you notice there's a real uptick in the police rolling around giving out tickets out the wazoo? It's because they're trying to meet end of the month quota. The kind of same instance here where they're helping out the police and they'll send guys turn themselves in for a made-up crime just so that they can write up a ticket and have it on their payroll. Oh dang, I forgot to print out his picture. Oh well. The war buddy of Tommy's called Billy Kitchen, and he says that he was involved with the shootout with the law. Tommy Alexander McQueen, he was keeping me stylish. But Tommy says, I want you to be the lead of this new brigade of 100 men. John lets Billy Kitchen know that if they work together, that Kitchen can let the boats pass through, of their contraband pass through London. They don't have to worry about getting all that checked. It just will make everything a lot simpler. Michael tells Tommy that he would like to stay, but Tommy's like, you need to go home. This is not the life for you. He's like, well, I'm gonna be 18 in a couple weeks, so it's up to me, you know. Polly says that it's okay. Tommy is really trying to convince him, like, I don't want you here. Oh, I have another hat I need to put on. I bought this because Alfie's my favorite character. Billy Kitchen goes to see Alfie. Look at this hat. This was so ugly on me. I really look like a fucking magician or a waiter or something. I don't know. Alfie changes his hats up every season though, so I couldn't keep up. I had to just get one. Kitchen gets a bunch of men. They go to Camden Town. They're meeting with Alfie. They're signing contracts. Alfie says, like, state your name. What do you do? They all come in and they all say, I'm a baker. He's like, all right, sign this. F*** off. Kitchen comes in and he says, what's your position? And he says, I'm head baker. Now check that. They go into another room where they have all the men that have joined, and Tommy's telling them to lie to police if they're asked. Tell them that they're bakers and they work at a bakery. Do not touch the bread or the rum. Don't get high on your own supply, kind of thing. And also because it might blow up. Highly flammable. Alfie jumps up and he says that he's got some rules. Oh, this scene. Just read off my list here. Rule number 1, the difference between bread and rum is not discussed. Rule number 2, anything a superior officer says is not discussed.
Not discussed!
Rule number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, Jewish women are off limits. He does it so much better than me, but you know what? You get the idea. That's enough of Alfie's scene. This is gonna get so annoying. So the boy that Arthur killed in that fight, well, the boy's mother comes to the garrison, got a gun pointed, ready to kill him. And he's like, just go ahead. I don't care. But she can't pull the trigger. She just can't do it. And he says that they have a fund set up. She'll get paid once a month from the Shelby company. He's like, I know this isn't gonna fix everything, but I can do that for you. And she's like, you mother... She freaks out and leaves. Yeah, that doesn't really make Arthur feel all that great. So this scene is really funny. Sergeant Moss is filling out an arrest paperwork, whatever, for that Digbeth kid. He's basically having to explain to Digbeth kid how this is gonna work, and he's like, all right, what did you get arrested for? And he's just like, I'll just make it up. He says that he's arrested he was found with betting slips, race cards, and ticker tape, and then they throw him in jail for a couple of days. So Sabini is talking to one of his men, and he's asking if Tommy is dead, and the man says no. We do have somebody called Digbeth Kid that's, in jail for the blinders. They say that they can use Digbeth Kid to make a point. Sabini lets his man know that Tommy is bewitching the horses like some gypsy shit, and they're tipping off the big spenders to bet at the races. Beginning of the last episode of season 1, Inspector Campbell goes to that wash house. It's also a brothel. Well, word gets out through the police, and they kind of joke with Inspector Campbell. He's asked from somebody to set him up somewhere for him to stay. And so as a joke, they send him to a brothel to stay at, where the owner, she appears to be a nice, sweet lady who wants to make sandwiches, but really she is one down and dirty hoe. Obviously, Campbell, he does not have a funny bone in his body, so he doesn't find it funny at all. Campbell thinks that the lady that's running it is in on the joke, and so he starts to threaten her. She's not, by the way. Tells her to report back that when his job is done, he will rain down hellfire on them. I don't even know if I explained, because honestly, you don't find out what the mission Campbell is here for until like really halfway through the season. Because at first I was like, did I miss something? Why Campbell is here is because he needs a certain man to be killed by order of Churchill. Poor Digbeth. This is why I didn't print off his picture. 2 men go into his cell. There's another cellmate in there with him. One of the men, Sabini's men, goes up to the cellmate, holds his knife to him, and he's like, you watch this and you report back to anybody that's gonna mess with Sabini's men. They slit Digbeth's throat and they kill him in the cell. Tommy gets word of this, and he has a couple of them get arrested so they can go into jail and they can find out who was the one that up Digbeth kid. And then Tommy wants to buy a horse so that they can go to the races. I can't not do that. But you know, Sabini's the big man on campus. Basically runs all the races in all of England. He's top dog, okay? When they make their move on Sabini's racing pitches, any of the men that they have there will be taken by Sabini's police. But if they have a horse, that they can also be in the owner's enclosure. Because Polly's like, well, when is this all going to be taking place? And John is like, it's going to happen on Derby. Well, they say Derby Day. It's Derby Day, which is Sabini's biggest race day. Michael comes in and says that he wants to go with them to go buy the horse. And Michael and the Shelbys, they all go to an auction. And this is where we meet another character, May Carlton. She's there also buying horses too with her father. They train race horses. They got a lot of money. Curly's with them. Curly tells Tommy, he's like, I've got a bad feeling about being here today. Something's gonna go wrong. This is just not right. But Tommy's like, shut the f up. Shut up. I need this horse. God damn it. Tommy and May Carlton get into this bidding war. And May only bids on it because she sees Tommy bidding for it. She really has no need for the horse at all. Tommy bids on the horse for 2,050 guineas? Is that how you say it? Guineas? After the auction, May meets with Tommy officially and she introduces herself. She says that she breeds racehorses and she also trains them if he wants another trainer. He's like, well, I got Curly. Where are you at? I got Curly. And she's like, well, okay. Back out to like the auction ring where they were showing the horses, and Curly is like, I wonder if that bad feeling was May. You know, women. Just as the Peaky Blinders are walking through the ring, there's a man there. We know it as Sabini's dude. And he turns around, points a gun. Arthur begins to fight. All kinds of shit. It goes wrong. There's fighting, there's shooting, there's yelling. Arthur beats the hell out of Sabini's number 1 guy, but he doesn't die. He bites into his throat, too. Like, it gets pretty gruesome and aggressive. Tommy turns around to see Michael. He's like, you need to back up, you need to go away. And Michael's like, yeah, I'm chilling, I'm fine. Episode 4. So this is where we find out what the is going on. What the is going on in here on this day? Tommy goes to meet with Inspector Campbell and Irene O'Donnell, that other man that's there who I still don't remember what his name. So Tommy thinks that Campbell had Irene and that other man blow up the garrison. Figures out that the Patties and the King want the same person dead. The Patties are the Irene and the man. What the hell is that? The King's men, all the King's horses and all the King's men, they want this one man dead. His name is Henry Russell. He just is a bad dude. But you don't really hear until the very end why they want him dead. He's just a bad guy. Anyway, Tommy thinks that they want him to kill the man because then Campbell especially can turn it into a crime and get him arrested. Then Campbell says that he will see to it that after everything is said and done, that nothing will come of it. How can we trust you, sir? Snake in the grass. He won't get any help with this execution. It needs to be done by him. And if he won't do it, then they'll kill Tommy anyway. There's no way out of it. Tommy says no. He gets up to leave. Campbell follows him out into the hallway. And Tommy is like, that man in there is a f***ing spy. A spy working for the irregulars against the pro-treaty Patties. Patties is not a derogatory term. I don't even know. Like, they say Jews a lot in the show, and I don't feel comfortable calling people Jews. I'm like, is Patties wrong? I should probably fact check. I think it's okay. Tommy tells Campbell that he wants proof that the spy is dead, and then he will kill Henry.
Let you
Well, the Peaky Blinders go back to that jazz lounge, the Sabini's Jazz Lounge, and they have a big old fight. With them, they have some of the bakers from Camden Town wrestling. Arthur goes up to the microphone and he's like, "Establishment is now under new management by order of the Peaky Blinders." Michael goes to talk to Tommy about a new accountant position that Tommy has put out in the paper. Tommy's like, "Sorry, it's been filled." And Michael's like, "No, it hasn't. I just saw it this morning." Michael says that he can help Tommy become legal, but then Tommy gives him the phone and he says, "You need to just call your mother." I didn't know if he was talking about call the adopted mother or call Polly, because Michael started calling Polly mother. I don't know who he was really talking about, but anyway, he's basically saying like, "No, I don't want you." May comes by the betting hall to see Tommy. They had scheduled a meeting and she is getting smitten with old Tommy, okay? And then they go to the garrison, and then out of nowhere, Tommy's like, "Do you want to fuck me?" And she's just like, she's taken aback, I will say. But she says that she's only there to train the horse. She says, "Well, you still haven't told me what the horse's name is." Here's a gag. The horse's name is Grace's Secret. Michael has gotten in touch with Polly, basically whining. "Michael, you're a baby." They will call it ambition or call it whining, I don't know. He goes to Polly, says that Tommy won't hire him and that he's threatening to leave Polly if he doesn't get hired, because he knows exactly what buttons to push. I'm really worried that he is going to leave, so can you just give him the accountant position? So Tommy's like, "Fine, but I'm going to keep him out of old business." And so for Michael's 18th birthday, he signs a contract to work for Shelby Company Limited. Tommy gets all the Shelbys together. He says, "Taste this," or whiskey or something like that. Arthur says it's way too good to sell at the garrison, and Tommy's like, "Yeah, well, we're not selling it. We're going to be shipping it." Some countries that are in a prohibition, they're in a dry spell right now. They're going to send it in car parts that they ship out. They're going to hide it in there, and because now that they broke bread with Alfie, the Camden Town and the London ports and whatnot, they can get through it without them checking. Tommy says that the whiskey will be packed at the dock so that Michael can keep the books and not be involved. So Tommy goes to watch the men packing up the car parts. Johnny Dogs, working at the Camden Town export thing, and he's like, "Do you guys check these car parts for anything?" And Johnny Dogs is like, "No, none of us have cars. What the f*** do we care about this shit?" Tommy's like, "Okay, word." He goes to the new jazz lounge, sits down with Arthur. They're looking at the books. "What is this? Like, why are we spending so much money on olives and fucking onions?" Arthur's like, "Oh, people like to mix it up in their drinks and stuff." "It's not me. What are you looking at me for?" It's Arthur spending it on cocaine. Tommy tells him to straighten up, and if he doesn't, then John is going to take over managing. Cocaine addiction has spiraled quite a bit. So Tommy goes and drives by the house where Henry Russell, the man on the hit list, he drives by his house just to scope out the situation, and he sees that it's being watched by police. Then he counts how many steps it would take to get from his house, the car, to the end of the street, whatever the hell. He goes to see Ada. She's been letting some friends or some people that she knows stay at her house. This one guy, he opens the door. Tommy's like, "Who the f*** are you?" It's a gay man, which is so taboo at this time. Comes in, he tells Ada that he set up funds for her and Carl and John's kids because he doesn't have any kids of his own. If and when he dies, the money will go to the kids. Ada's like, "You plan on dying or something?" He's like, "I'm just getting my ducks in a row." "All right, I gotta change my hat." Sabini, this is stupid. Sabini and his men come to see Alfie come through holding a white flag. This whole scene is very funny, but Sabini asks if Alfie knew that the Peaky Blinders were going to blow up the eating club, and Alfie just doesn't give him a straight answer. I interpret it as, yeah, he knew, but he's like, "Why would I say anything to you?" And then Alfie says that he's upset with Sabini because he runs his mouth about Jewish people all the time. It's very funny seeing them go back and forth. He's like, "It's a fucking joke. Take a joke."
Everybody makes jokes. I didn't know you had no sense of humor.
Sabini's mad that Alfie has invited the Peaky Blinders to come to the city to break bread with him, start a written deal, and it gets so... Alfie wants the border of their territories moved to where it used to be. Sabini's like, "Oh my god, that's so old news, like, get over it." But they're like two bickering children. He says to write down peace between the Jewish and Italians, and Sabini says to write down war with the Gypsies, which is basically the Lees and the Shelbys. Tommy goes to see May at her... We can't even call it a mansion, it's an estate. They talk about the horse, and she says the horse needs a lot of work. She can run in the race, and she may do all right, but she's not gonna win. He hints at maybe he could stay over for the night. She starts to cry because she starts thinking about her husband who died in the war. Like, this house is so huge. and I'm so lonely. In his flirtatious way, he asks if she has a map for the house. Well, I'm gonna need one because in the middle of the night, I'm coming to find your room and I'm gonna sneak in there and I'll sleep with you. Isaiah, remember? Isaiah and Michael. It's payday, baby. Isaiah's like, do you want to come with me to go drinking at one of the pubs? I don't remember which one. Not the Garrison, just another pub. They won't serve a black man. So anyway, Michael and him go to the pub. A brawl starts because a guy comes in and he's like, I don't drink with blacks. The bartender's like, he's a fucking Peaky Blinder. Then everybody changes their tune and they start acting on pins and needles. They tell Arthur and John about what happened. Arthur and John go back to that pub, light it on fire. They destroy the pub. Cut back to Tommy and May. They are fucking having sex. They're fooling. Campbell and Tommy meet up, and Campbell's asking if Tommy has read Henry Russell's file. Like, yeah, I did, and I've been getting my affairs in order in the event that I die. And I also have it set up that if I die, you will be killed. Watch your fucking back. Tommy, back at home, he gives someone a call. In New York, Grace picks up. Well, actually, her husband picks up. Episode ends. Episode 5. So Arthur goes and has dinner with Billy Kitchen and Alfie Solomons. This scene is so good. The tension is high and thick. When they get in there to have their dinner, they lock the doors and Arthur's like, okay, what the hell? Kitchen leans over and tells Arthur that something is wrong. He doesn't feel good. Alfie starts talking about the persecution of Jewish people throughout time, all the way back to Egypt. The meal that they're about to have is something called Seder. This is straight from Alfie. When the Jewish angels have decided that the Egyptians had pushed their luck. Pesach? I don't know how to say these words. A ritual sacrifice of the Passover goat. Actually, this year we ended up giving the goat a name. He says, Tommy Shelby. Slices the goat's throat. I don't know, it's hitting the fan. They end up killing Billy Kitchen and they choke Arthur out. Alfie tells him that it's from Sabini. Open the doors, police come in. Alfie's like, oh my god, this fucking lunatic just went crazy. He killed Billy Kitchen and he just sliced the goat's throat.
He's dead. Is he dead? He's fucking dead.
While that's going on, Sergeant Moss and Inspector Campbell are outside of Polly's house. Police go inside and they arrest Michael for the fight at the pub, the one that just got blown up. Campbell gets Polly and pins her up against the car, says that Tommy is finished because he's just threatened to have Campbell killed if Tommy's killed. Oh my god, this is messy. The Peaky Blinders that are working at the Eden Club, the jazz lounge, Mr. Sabini and his men come in and they fire all the staff, rough up the Peaky Blinders that are there, and they say that the Peaky Blinders are no longer welcome. Tommy and May, they just seem like they're having a good weekend away. They go and look at the racehorse. Tommy tells May, her horse man, I don't know what you'd call him, basically like Tommy's curly. He tells him you should put goldfish in the trough of water you have them drink out of because that'll help with the worms. The goldfish will eat the eggs of the worms. So anyway, they think he's a lunatics. But then Tommy gets a call about what just happened with Michael and Polly and all that. Campbell tells Tommy that the Home Secretary, who apparently is above Churchill, didn't know that, but he says that he's in a tizzy about Tommy's morals and that he's pushed his limits too far with no results. We're not any closer to killing Henry. He says Churchill was the one that promised protection and the Home Secretary outranks him. Now Arthur's in prison for murdering Billy Kitchen, for the murder of Billy Kitchen. He didn't do it, obviously, we know that. Michael has admitted to helping Arthur and John burn down the pub. And so Campbell says, Tommy, you're not afraid to die, but I know that you will not let anything happen to your family and you would do anything to protect them. Campbell, you are just the pits, man. Grace calls Tommy back. She says, I think you called me last night, but you didn't answer. What's up with that? She says, can we meet somewhere? But more on that in just a second. John is telling that the men in Camden Town, some of them the police have taken in, the rest of them, I guess I could put my other hat on. Sorry, I got distracted. The rest of them are on the run, and they took all the whiskey and impounded the vans, put locks on the warehouses. And all of their pubs have been raided by the cops and given back to Sabini and Solomon. Black country boys were told Arthur killed Billy, so now they won't let their boats pass. But Esme tells Tommy that the Lees, they're still in good terms, so the Lees can offer some support. This is where it gets bad. Polly goes to see Campbell. He says that there's a way for her to get Michael out. He's asking for sex. He wants to fuck. He says, I know you felt something when I pinned you up against that car. Obviously, he's fucking evil, so you can only imagine his sexual fantasies are very dark and just weird. He asks her to start crying and basically acting like she's small and weak and that kind of thing. It's very uncomfortable. He degrades her, he slaps her. Polly has sex with Campbell in order for him to sign the paper to release Michael. Gets released the next morning, and the police told him what Polly did to get him out, so now Michael... This is, first time around watching this show, Michael was actually one of my favorites. But now rewatching it, you're a pawns, Michael. You're not a good person. Because when he gets out, he kind of gives Polly the side eye, which I get. Yeah, it might probably be hard to look at her the same way, but she did it for you. She did it for you, you whore. So Grace and Tommy, they're meeting up. Tommy just sits down and Grace is like, are you gonna pour me a drink? And he's like, it's there. If you want it, you can get it yourself. And he says that he had a plan to tell her how much he missed her and that they would go to bed together, but he changed his mind. And so that kind of angers her. And they just bicker back and forth. And then Tommy's like, I see you lost your sense of humor. Like, I fully believed him. So what do you mean? Really wants to go and take her out and to impress her. And then he's like, you like Charlie Chaplin? They go to some party, gets her to meet Charlie Chaplin because Charlie Chaplin's bodyguard used to work with Tommy. It does, whatever. Who cares? Tommy calls up Campbell and he's like, bestie, you are not going to believe who I'm here with.
Liar!
They go back home. They freak it. Okay, Tommy and Grace have sex. Then afterwards, Tommy's like, how long are you here for? You headed back home? And she's like, no, we're here kind of indefinitely. We've been seeing some doctors while we're here, her and her husband. Well, we're trying to have a baby. I'm sorry, but the doctors think that I'm the one that's at fault. It's my fault that we can't have the baby. John visits Arthur in prison, and he says not to worry because Tommy's got a plan to get him out. Johnny Dogs and Johnny Dogs is driving a car over near Henry Russell's house, distracting the police that are on patrol. John takes a explosive, a bomb, and slides it through the letterbox of Henry Russell's house. And we hear kaboom! House blows up. Tommy goes back to see May, and she's like, look, we put the goldfish in the trough. Isn't it so nice? I thought it'd make you smile. And then he just drops a bomb on her like, we can't be seeing each other anymore. This is over. Tommy, you have such a way with words. Can't see each other anymore, but to keep it professional. And this is where we're laying out the plan of how Tommy is gonna go about killing Henry. Campbell visits Tommy and says that, I don't know if you heard, but Henry's house blew up. Know anything about that? So Tommy says that he will still kill him, but only in the way that it serves him. Carry out the assassination, but only at a place that the police cannot shoot him. And he shows a picture of his new racehorse to Inspector Campbell. Look at the name on that. Grace's Secret. Oh my god, it's such a... Ooh, it's a zinger. Tells Campbell that he will carry out the murder at Derby Day. I want to keep saying Derby Day. To us Americans over here, it's Derby Day. Alright, season finale. And we hear Tommy narrating and he's saying, my name is Thomas Shelby and I'm gonna kill a man today. He's saying that he's killing a man for the agents of the crown, writing out like, if anything happens to me, this is what is going on. I need to put on my other hat because I don't think, the top of my head, I don't believe Alfie's in this episode. I know, it was hard for me to accept too. Anyway, in his letter, Tommy's saying that he doesn't think that he'll come out alive. Agents of the crown have joined with pro-treaty Fenians to have Henry Russell killed. Thinks the government will falsely blame the anti-treaty IRA and his murder will start a war. So this is where we find out what the is wrong with Henry Russell. Took him long enough to explain why you've come back. We just know about this man Henry Russell, but we don't know exactly what he did. Field marshal, and he was a black and tan commander, committed many atrocities in Cork County. And then Tommy puts Campbell's name in there as the agent that wants him killed, so he's name dropping people. If Tommy dies, he wants Campbell brought to justice, not the store. I don't know why when I said that I was picturing like somebody bringing him to the justice store. He gives that letter to Ada and he says, post this if anything happens to him, i.e. die. Have we had anybody die yet? I haven't been, no, I think we're all good. The man that is staying with Ada goes with Tommy. Oh, we do have Alfie. Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot this scene. Oh, just kidding, joke's on you. Alfie is in this episode. Tommy takes that man, his name is James. Okay, James.
Okay.
James is kind of like a backup. Alfie's bookie or accountant or whoever the hell he is, and he says, no, it's only you, Tommy. You're the only one allowed to come in to see him. Okay, fine. You wait out here for me. They're walking through the bakery, and Tommy stops to tie his shoe. He stops near a barrel of rum. They go and they talk to Alfie. Sis. Alfie gets a phone call. He's like, I think this is for you. Arthur calling saying that he's gotten out of jail. All of the witnesses, the murder that happened with Alfie at that dinner, all retracted their statements. They've gotten Arthur out of jail. So he's like, fine, we're good now, right? Tommy tells Alfie he can move their rum and their shipments of car parts. Alfie gives Tommy a contract to sign that will give him 100% profit from Shelby Company. That is where Tommy tells him he's got a man with him, James. He was walking through, he stopped to tie his shoe. When he did that, he placed a hand grenade on one of the barrels of rum. Alfie is looking at his bookie and he's like, yeah, he did. Oh my god, we're gonna be blown sky high. He's like, if I'm not out of here in 5 minutes, then my partner outside is gonna pull the trigger. They end up agreeing that Alfie will get 35% any profit from Shelby Company. They make that deal. Let's go to the Derby. Let's all go to the Derby. Campbell meets up with 3 men that are outside of the police force. He hires them to kill Tommy when he gives the signal. Okay, just remember these men. Tommy is explaining to the rest of the Peaky Blinders and the Lees. Says at 3 o'clock there will be an incident, which is gonna be Tommy killing Henry. That will bring every cop to that. And while that happens, the Blinders move on Sabini's pitches and destroy all the licenses. Tommy, he is following Henry Russell into the building. Miss Grace comes up behind him and she's like, I have got to talk to you. He's like, I really can't talk right now. Any other time, please. She says, no, this can't wait. I'm pregnant. What? Her husband was the one that he can't have kids. So now Grace is pregnant with Tommy's baby. I'm not on anybody's side because maybe it's because I can see the forest for the trees. Do I want them to be? I guess I do want them to be together, but I don't know. Like when I first watched this, I interpreted it. She did that because she knew she would get pregnant if she slept with Tommy, reel him back in. Kind of like how he thought that Freddie got Ada pregnant just so he could get close to the family. I don't know. I don't fully trust Grace, but I don't fully trust Tommy either. So what are we gonna do? Tommy says that after the race is over, he'll decide on what to do. But right now he has got to go. I gotta go kill somebody. Hang on a minute. And she says, well, just so you know, I love you. I don't love my husband. Grace, you're messy as hell. Lizzie meets up with Tommy, and Tommy is like, I know I told you to give up the work, but I need you to seduce this guy, get him alone. This is the last time I'm gonna ask you to do this, but it would really help me if you could do this for me. I'll be there before anything happens. She agrees, chalk and writes a number on the bottom of her shoe. The ladies would signal to soldiers if they wanted a little hanky-panky. The announcer comes on to the speaker and says, hey, the race is about to start. Go get a seat. Everybody clears out except for Tommy and Campbell. So Tommy tells them that Grace said that she loves him and all that Campbell got was a bullet and a cane. Oh my god, what a serve. And that he also knows what Campbell did to Polly. He says whatever happens that day, one of them is going to end up in hell. It all comes down to this. Lizzie flags down Henry, or they go to like a bathroom. Henry gets, the men here are pigs. He gets very aggressive and Lizzie's like, why don't we just take it slow, right, Tommy? Tommy comes in a little late to the game. Well, he points his gun to shoot at Henry, but it jams up. Ow. Henry and Tommy start fighting. Henry's like trying to gouge out Tommy's eyes and stuff. Henry pulls out his gun. Tommy takes it, points it. He dies. He does it. Oh, thank God. Oh, that was oh, God. Henry Russell is dead. Tommy tells Lizzie, get out, leave. Police hear the shots, so they come in. Tommy's like, I was taking a shit and some guy just shot someone else in there. All the police go there because I didn't mention the king is at the race. So it's like all hands on deck, protect the king. All of the police, just like they planned, leave and go to this one area. So the rest of the Peaky Blinders go and they destroy all of Sabini's licenses. There's word out that there's an Irishman going around shooting up people. Police think that it's an IRA man going after the king. And they see Campbell sitting at the bar and they're like, put him up, you bastard. They check his badge and he's like, I'll take over from here, don't you worry. They go protect the king. It's up to Campbell now to go find who the assassin is. Tommy goes to meet with Sabini at the owner's enclosure and he tells them that the coppers are not coming because Sabini has called for police to come and get Tommy. He keeps checking his watch and he's like, where the are they? They were supposed to be here 10 minutes ago. I told you, your security is lacking. So Sabini pulls out a gun. Tommy's like, if you pull that, you're automatically the assassin. Tells him that the Blinders out there having a bonfire, burning up all their licenses. Sabini was the one that told Alfie that his bookies can't come to Epsom. So now the Blinders are back in business. 3 men that Campbell hired come and they take Tommy and he's under arrest under the red right hand, which is also the theme song that's playing. They throw him in the back of the truck. They drive somewhere. Hang on 1 second. Grace goes into like the bar area. She talks to May and they find out that they both know Tommy. Tension because Grace is like, that is my man. And May's like, well, I've been f***ing him. May tells Grace that the fire that's been going on out on the tracks is all a part of Tommy's plan. Pitchers won't be able to get another license, the pitchers for Sabini, because May's like, I'll make sure that they can't because I have a heavy influence in through the board, the racing board, whatever the whoever they have to go through. The pitchers will not be able to get a license and they'll all have to go through Tommy's bookies now. Oh my god, May, you are a real one. This scene, you may have seen this in an edit or something. The red right hand, they get Tommy out in this field somewhere. They've already dug a grave for him. They let him smoke a cigarette for a second and he says, oh, there's a woman. and she loves me. I nearly got fucking everything. He knows the end is there. The end is nigh. There's a man here. There's a man here. The man behind Tommy points the gun. He goes, pushes Tommy into the grave. Bop, bop. Tommy is not dead. The guy that did not shoot him but shot the other two, he says, in the near future, Mr. Churchill's gonna want to get in touch with you because he's got a job for you. Get out of the grave, Tinker. We see Tommy getting up out of the grave, and it's like, I mean, literally his life actually just flashed before his eyes, walking away crying. Like, he had just made up his mind that, like, all right, well, I'm dead. I already set my affairs in order, so now that he's not dead, and he's just like, Tommy goes back to the office and sees that Michael is still there. Michael goes up to him and says that he wants to start making some real money. And Tommy says, well, I've got some nice big plans for this company. And also, I'm gonna get married. The end of season 2. Oh my god. Alright, I think I'm gonna take another break, get the board cleaned up a bit. I don't really need to clean up too much. I'm just gonna go sit down for a minute, gather my thoughts. I'm gonna let everything cool down, charge back up, and then we're gonna come back and finish up this video with season 3. So I will see you. Well, it'll be a second for you, but who knows how long it's gonna be for me. I may not come back. Maybe tomorrow. Just a sec. Hang on. Just hang on a second. Oh, sweaties, I'm back. It's just a couple hours later, but I'm back. And I'm an idiot sandwich. So I sat down, took a minute to breathe and chill out for a minute. And I was sitting there thinking, I was like, okay, where does season 3 start again? I started running through the characters, and I was like, I fucking forgot. One of the last scenes of season 2, so it's not so long forgotten that I'm glad I caught myself so I can do it now. I forgot to tell you. Okay, we're going back to season 2 just for a brief second. After Tommy has been scooped up by the men that Campbell hired, back at the races, at the Epsom races, Polly shows up, okay? And she is packing, and she finds Campbell in a phone booth. She pulls the gun on him. Campbell's like, you're not gonna fucking do anything. She says, wanna bet? Bop! Shoots him in the heart. Womp, womp, womp. Hey, yeah, yeah. Campbell, you're dead. I forgot to mention a pretty significant character has died. And I have it written out too, and I just breezed right on past it. I guess I should move you because we're starting season 3. Campbell, you're getting moved to the graveyard. We're gonna go ahead and start with episode 1 of season 3, and it is no longer 1921. We are now in the year 1924. Our season opens up with Tommy and Grace getting married. Woo, woo, woo. We also find out Grace gave birth to a boy that they named Charlie. They don't really say if it's named after Charlie Strong or not. They've got their son born out of wedlock. See the wedding opening up. Grace's side of the family is sitting on one side, and they're all done up in their uniforms because most, if not all of the men, are agents of the crown. And the Peaky Blinders and Tommy's side of the family is on the other side, and they are a ruckus crowd, okay? They've got babies crawling all over the place. People are yelling at each other. They're just like rough and tough, and they're like polar opposites. Grace's side is very poised and like composed, snobby, looking down their nose. Other side, well, you know how they are. All the Peaky Blinders are kind of eyeing the agents of the crown, and they're like, motherfuckers. They're not clashing. They don't like each other. Arthur being Tommy's best man. When Grace comes walking down the aisle, we see Tommy and Arthur standing up there, and Jeremiah is officiating the wedding. You can imagine Grace's family's surprise when a black man comes in to officiate the wedding. They're like, where are we? Is this who we are? All of the Shelbys have moved up in the world. They've made quite a bit of money since 1921. And Tommy, for himself and Grace and their child, has bought a new estate. It's called Arrow House Warwickshire. We have the wedding. It goes great. Grace shows up in purple. It is not a white wedding. Taking pictures out in front of the church. Tommy keeps eyeing at this man who he doesn't recognize. Find out it's a Russian man. We'll talk more about him in just a few minutes. Tommy's eyeing him like... Tommy and Grace get in the car. They drive back to the house. Everybody else is coming back to the house for the reception. We're about to have a good hootenanny. I don't know what the that was. Tommy's walking around, gets up to Polly, and he's like, there are some people here that are not on the list. I don't know who the these people are. There's a lot of young girls running around that were brought by Grace's side of the family. They brought dates, and they're running around asking if there's going to be cocaine. They're like, on the train, we were promised cocaine. Where is it? They're like, there's no snow today. And this is where we get a really iconic scene. Tommy calls all of the blinders that are there. He calls them into the kitchen because they're all like, what the are they doing wearing their uniforms? And he's like, I know, I don't have any control over it. It's her family. Stop. Just stop. I know what you're thinking. Stop. Just for today, for Grace's sake, no snow, nobody do drugs, and absolutely no f***ing fighting.
No f***ing fighting!
He does it way better than I do, and he yells a lot, but I've got neighbors, and I'm sure they would be like, So Tommy goes upstairs, he finds Grace up there, and we gotta go downstairs to be at our own reception woman. And she's like, well, I was just putting Charlie to bed. They start bickering back and forth because Tommy's kind of giving her the cold shoulder already. You just said your vows like 20 minutes ago. She says, look, I know they wore their uniforms, I told them not to. Getting on her about that. He's kind of got an attitude. And she's asking, are you scared about this marriage? He says, no, it's just business. I get scared all the time, but this is just how I deal with it. I will be all right. And then he says, you know what I'm really scared for is Arthur's speech, his best man speech, because Arthur has actually got, I was not clear, and one of those things I could easily look up, but I'm too lazy. I don't know if he's technically married or if this is just his girl that he's been seeing. We got a new character. Her name is Linda. She is a Bible thumping, God-fearing woman, and she's taught Arthur kind of the ways of the Lord. When Tommy says that he's scared for Arthur's best man speech because Linda has probably told him to expand on what Tommy and Arthur have already agreed to put in the speech, they end up making up having sex. They consummate the marriage. While everybody's downstairs, they're waiting to eat dinner, and they're up there fucking. A little decorum, please. Kathy, a little decorum. There's a man who keeps cutting eyes at Polly, and I ship them so much. His name is Reuben Oliver. He is a portrait artist. I'm actually not sure who invited him. Since Tommy's got his big new house now, everybody's gotten their portraits painted. I'm not sure if Tommy invited him to paint a portrait of him, Grace, and Charlie. I don't know how he ended up at the wedding, but he's there. But he keeps looking at Polly. Polly's like, but then there's another man who makes a move on Polly. It's that Russian man that I was telling you about earlier, and goes to introduce himself to Polly. The man tells her that Tommy has started to have some business in Russia. So, let me tell you, this season is gonna get fucking messy, especially for Tommy. Lizzie is talking with Michael, more like arguing with Michael. He's basically saying, why can't my man come to this wedding? Lizzie's been seeing a new beau, an Italian man. Lizzie tells Arthur that she got word her boyfriend, Angel Chingretta, his business was burnt down and they smelled petrol. So she's like, I know you guys threw fire into his window to stop him from coming. They don't admit to it, but she's like, who the else would it be? Because the Italians, like Sabini, oh god. But Lizzie's like, that's so unfair. Michael tells her that they've checked him out and did background checks on him. He's had 5 different names in the last 6 years, so he can't be trusted. And she's like, let me make the decision here, you bitch. Even though she's just like a receptionist or a secretary, doesn't matter. He says, you're a part of this company. Fall in line. Okay, this is awkward as hell. Arthur attempts to give his best man speech. He starts to compliment Tommy a little bit too much for Tommy's liking. Very emotional. Like I said, Arthur, you wouldn't think, just by looking at him, he's probably the most emotional of the bunch. Trying to speak from the art. You can tell Linda has definitely had some say of like, speak with the Lord in mind. I don't know what she said to him, but he goes off script is what I'm saying, because Tommy's like, just say what we wrote. This makes it really awkward. He mentions Grace's husband before she married Tommy. I don't know if he would be an ex, because what had happened was, well, Grace's husband ended up killing himself when he found out about Grace was pregnant with Tommy's baby, and he couldn't take it, so he ended his life. And then Grace went and married Tommy. So that's, yeah. Tommy mentions to Arthur after his speech, he's like, most of Grace's family doesn't know that he killed himself. They think that he died in an accident. That's how we want to keep it. So shut your f***ing mouth. And then he also brings up the Lord in his speech, to like the good Lord, and they're like, all right, it's over, stop. And Tommy takes him outside. Like, in the future, it's not always right to listen to Linda. He tells them about the Russians, that they've made contact and they're going to use the family as leverage to button everything up. Polly talks to the Russian man to see if he can give him a name. Tommy was told by the Russians they'll give him a code name, their liaison that they send to the wedding. Polly's asking the guy if he can give the name, and he gives the name Constantine. That's not the right name. So, I should have said, Tommy was given his big speech about like no fighting. He had said no gambling, no racing, no drugs, no this, no that. Well, now he needs the Blinders to act up just a little bit and cause distractions. John tells Curly, get out the horses. Tommy's changed his mind about having some races. We're gonna try and get these agents of the crown to cough up some cash. Any profit won from the races is going to the new Shelby Charity Foundation. What the do they call it? Yeah, the Shelby Foundation charity. Tommy wants to be seen giving back to the poor, to the people of Birmingham. He's kind of using it as a distraction because since there's a spy at the wedding, you know it has to happen. But we'll get to that. Hang on. Russian man ends up seeing Tommy. I don't know what his name is. I'm just gonna call him the Russian man. He says that Tommy's being watched everywhere by the Soviet embassy. And then he says the Duke Leon Petrovna Romanov is sending his niece to bring the cash. So there's royalist Russians that are buying weapons from Tommy to fight the Bolsheviks in Georgia. So that's the whole thing that's going on. Tommy is selling weapons to the Russians so that they can fight their own war. That's the whole thing. He said he was told he would get $10,000 in US dollars. He says he'll have the police pick up Tatiana, bring her to another location. So Grace and Tommy, they have their first dance. Polly told Grace that there's business being done at their wedding, so Grace is already like, just one fucking day. Can you cool it? She wants to be the one to run the Shelby Foundation. Tommy promises that he will keep the guns and all of the business out of the house for their son Charlie's sake. Sergeant Moss picks up the niece of the Duke, Tatiana Petrovna. Yeah, she's the one that's bringing the money for Tommy. Your boy in there, he didn't give me the right name. I don't trust any of yous. Finn goes and he gets the money out of the car. They count it up. It's all there. Arthur now says that they have got to kill this Russian man. He also warns Tommy, like, doing deals with the Russians, that's too far. Because the Russians, they play so dirty. You do not want to get swept up with them. At the end of season 2, when the guy shoots Tommy and he falls into the grave and says that Churchill needs him to do a job, this is the big job. Big wigs of the government will pay boatloads of money for somebody else to deal with the Russians. He says if they refuse, then Churchill will have them hanged. All of them. They're going to use the money to buy a wharf at Boston docks, and that's why he wanted to get US dollars. Very, okay, smart thinking, boy. So Reuben Oliver, this is when he actually goes and talks to Polly, who he is, what he's doing. Like, I'm a portrait painter, artist. Tommy runs through the wedding party, and Reuben tries to introduce himself, kind of brushes him off, and he's like, get out of my way. Move. Ada is talking politics with the Russian man. Arthur comes into the room. He makes the situation so awkward. Do you need something? And he's like, yeah, I need to take this man outside and go to the stables. That's where Arthur beats the shit out of him. Wrestling. You know Arthur. And he ends up shooting him and killing him. So later on in the night, the party's over. Reuben, he says something's wrong with his car, so he's staying overnight. And he brings champagne to Polly. And he's like, I know this is preposterous.
This is preposterous.
She takes the bottle and she's like, no thank you. Goodbye. Closes the door, and then we see Polly. She's packing. She's holding a gun. Because remember, like I just said, what I forgot, he's killed an inspector, so she is on her guard. Arthur finds Linda sitting in a church, and she's like, I just needed some fucking peace from today. She just tells him to pray. She's like, just talk to God. And you know, he just killed somebody, so he really needs God on his side right now. The Peaky Blinders the next morning going back to Smallheath, back to their betting hall. Tommy and Polly taking out all of the money, all of the US dollars, and putting it in their safe. Episode 1 complete. Let me wet my whistle. Oh, this is not on topic at all. TikTok has come back. This has been so chaotic. It was gone. You saw me lose my TikTok. It's been devastating. One night without it, and I thought I was gonna have a brain aneurysm. I need my programs, okay? Right, episode 2. A motor company, a car factory, and there's a man there named Nutley. That name makes me laugh. Tommy tells him that he wants to know what's in bays 4, 5, and 6, trying to deduce where he's keeping the weapons that he's going to be giving to the Russians. He figures out they're in bay 6, and Tommy gives Nutley some Nutley, I'm sorry, but that name is so ooh. He gives money to Nutley for his troubles. In bay 6, the weapons in question are 27 armored vehicles that are a part of a business deal with Tommy and Father John Hughes. Now, Father John Hughes, this man right here, also side note, this actor, I don't know what his name is, he was in a movie with Tom Hardy and Gary Oldman, Child 34. That is such a good movie. Trigger warning if you're going to watch it. Anyway, he plays, I'm not going to say who if you're going to go watch it because I will spoil it if I do. Very good movie. Highly recommend. But Father John Hughes is a bag of shit. Him and Tommy are sitting at the docks waiting for a group of men to come by. Now, Tommy knows them as Section D, this group of men that's doing the deal for the weapons. Father Hughes says they go by many different names. He calls them odd fellows. There's a bunch of other names for them, but I don't remember them all. They're businessmen, MPs, officers. They're all a part of the Section D. They're sitting there waiting. Section D people, they're late for the meeting. And Tommy's getting more and more frustrated because Father Hughes keeps just jabbing his jaws. And he's like, shut the f*** up. Let's sit in silence. When my hand goes up, you shut up. Father Hughes, he says that these men work on their own time. They'll get there when they get there if they want to get there. And Father Hughes looks at his clock and he's like, oh, it's 6 o'clock. I'm leaving. And Tommy's like, where the f*** are you going? And he says, well, the men weren't here by the end of morning prayer. Then the meeting was canceled. They're not coming. So then Tommy's like, you know what? All right, this. Just let your men know the vehicles are there. They're good to go. Bye. Father Hughes gives Tommy a piece of paper with an address on it and tells him he'll be meeting someone today in London at the Ritz Hotel. Tommy's like, I have other meetings today, I can't go. And Father Hughes is like, no, you only have one meeting, this meeting. Okay, now we get to meet Vincente Changretta. Remember the name Changretta? Lizzie's boyfriend, Angel. This is his father. He works with the Italians. Can't remember if they're involved with the Sabinis or not. Changretta goes to meet with John and Arthur in like a junkyard. He wanted to be somewhere off the beaten path, neutral territory. He's asking to meet with Tommy. Tommy's now hung up over in London. Arthur and John are like, well, you get to meet with us now. Changretta says the Italians, they pay their dues, they follow all the rules set out, they've all agreed upon, and they stay out of the city, they don't step on any toes, but his son Angel will walk around with whoever he pleases, wherever he pleases. Well, that does not sit well with John, because remember, John and Lizzie, like, they were close to getting married. John still has pretty strong feelings for Lizzie, rubs him the wrong way, threatens to shoot Angel in the knees. That's not good. Changretta is like, noted. Arthur, he immediately is like, what the f*** are you doing? Shut the f*** up. Tommy is at the library in London talking with Ada, who's working there, I guess, for some books on Russian Revolution. That's where he reads about Duke Leon Petrovna Romanov. Yeah, this guy. Arthur tells Polly what happened with the Italians with Changretta, and he asks Polly to go talk to John and see if he will go apologize. Of course, John is like, that. And Polly says, in her opinion, he should make a compromise. Lizzie can do it by breaking up with Angel and saying that it was all her fault. Basically, take the fall for everything. John blames Linda that Arthur is saying all this, that he should apologize. Linda is fucking ruining everything. What happened to our Arthur? He used to be a hard ass. Tommy goes to the Ritz. Well, he says, I'm here to have a meeting with Romanov. The guy working the desk is like, well, are you going to pay this bill? Because somebody's got to pay it. We have an outstanding bill for quite a bit of money that Mr. Romanov has not paid. Right off the bat, Tommy's got to pay for this man's bill before he even steps into the hotel. And Mr. Romanov is just sitting there eating caviar, stuffing his face, and talking about everything else under the sun other than business. Tommy calls him out, saying that you are not directly related to the Romanov family. The estate that they're staying in, it's very, very nice. That's not even your house. They've set you up and posted you up there, so that's not even your place. Like, stop fronting. I just paid your f***ing bill. He says you're not directly related to the Romanovs and you're Georgian. Georgian? What do we call people from Georgia here? Georgians? Tommy says that he's been given $10,000, but he was promised $14,000. Romanov gives him sapphires. He says, I've got a whole bunch of diamonds, and I got about 2 or 3 sapphires on me right now you can have as payment. Oh God, this is where it gets bad. So he gives the sapphires for killing the spy and for future endeavors. John goes to that wash house where they get all their coats pressed, hiding there because Angel, Changretta, get in their suits. Sure enough, John comes out of the woodworks, or out of the wash house. He starts attacking them. He slices his eyes and stuff with his hat, with the razor blades. And then he tells them to stay away from Lizzie. We're having a family meeting. Well, Arthur and Polly are upset with John because he was supposed to go and make peace, you know, he was supposed to apologize. And so Tommy comes in. It appears that he's grilling John at first, but then he's like, no, I think you did the right thing. I would do the same thing too. Polly and Arthur for being too soft. If they see any kind of cracks, they're going to walk right over us. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Not that we were before, but you know what I mean. They'll be taking 2 of the Changretta's pubs to be on the offense. Hit the pubs and get them signed over. And also don't use the phones because people are listening. Tommy goes home and Grace runs out there to show blueprints of the new Shelby... What does she call it? It's an orphanage for the Shelby Foundation. She's made up a list for a dinner, a charity event that they're going to be having to kick everything off. Moves are being made. Well then... Tommy brings out the sapphire, puts it on Grace, and is like, you can wear this to the dinner. Later on in the evening, and Arthur's like, I gotta go out somewhere. You know, he's going to blow up the pub. Linda's like, why do you have to go out? Work in the night is devil's work, I think is what she says. He says it's just paperwork. I mean, he's being very much like... He goes to a car where Moss is at, and he tells him, keep his men away from the pubs that they're gonna go blow up. But then after that, John is like, come on, let's go out and party and drink. And Arthur's like, I'm fucking going home. John gets ticked off at him. He's like, oh, f*** off. Angel is in the hospital now. Mr. Vincente, he's out in the hallway talking to one of his men. They found out both of their pubs got blown up. You know what I mean. Tommy and John are at the betting hall. Him and Esme were in there getting their freak on. They say that they've got a house full of kids and they can't have sex in the house. And I don't know why. John permanently looks like an 18-year-old to me. And like him saying he's got like 6 kids blows my mind every time. He looks so young. He's cranking them out. Tommy tells Esme to leave because he saw outside that there are 2 truckloads of police outside, and they're not their police that they pay off. Esme runs out, but she comes right back in being carried by police. They say they're Scotland Yard. They're the bigwigs. They don't take no shit from nobody. John is fighting with them, saying that Esme is actually pregnant. Yeah, did you know that? No, I didn't. But Tommy lets him know that it's Russian business. It's all from the Russian dealings. Calm your tits. Be quiet. So Father John Hughes... Isn't John Hughes a director? Didn't he do The Breakfast Club? Goes to see Tommy in jail. And he's brought a dog with him too. And Tommy just keeps eyeing the dog like, what up, bitch? As the Odd Fellows, or Section D, that any diversions from holding up Tommy's end of the deal will result in serious consequences. Ada is currently a security breach because she has connections with the Bolsheviks. I'm okay. I'm all right. Don't worry about me. He has connections with the Bolsheviks that are in London who are connected to the Soviet embassy. Father Hughes says that he's got Scotland Yard in his pocket, so around and find out. Is that Ada will be killed if Tommy goes to see her again. He just has to tell Scotland Yard, just has to give him a command. They do what he says. To go home and check under his son's pillow. Look how easy it was for us to get into your house and put something under your son's pillow. Gets out of jail. Tommy goes in there to his son's room. He finds a little card underneath the pillow. It's a cooperation crematorium. And he flips it over. On the back it says, Rip Charles Shelby. Reuben comes by. He's sitting with Ada, saying that he's going to be painting Polly and whatnot. So Polly comes out dressed up in a nice, really nice, pretty dress, trying to decide, like, is this okay for you to paint me in? Oh my god, they start falling. They fall for each other. Well, we can get started tomorrow. And then Ada jumps in and she's like, well, Polly, why don't you invite him to the dinner tonight? And Polly's like, I don't think so. And I don't even know if Reuben ended up showing up at the dinner. I don't think he did. It was probably a good thing. So Grace, she's wearing that sapphire to the dinner. At the dinner for the charity, Father Hughes and another man that he works with called Patrick Jarvis, an MP, they bring Tommy into another room and they talk about Section D wants to know about the ammunition and the chains for the vehicles, what he plans to do, how does he plan to get the vehicles out of the city. Be a strike across the city and 2 drivers will join in at different points to be able to move the 27 vehicles. Back at the party, Tatiana's out there and she notices that Grace is wearing the sapphire. Tatiana tells Tommy she is bold to wear that. Nothing in this world would get me to wear that sapphire. Tommy's like, huh? She says, that thing is cursed. Tommy goes up to Grace. I'm so sorry to do this, and I know I just gave you this really nice fancy necklace, but take it off. Take it off now. Italian men come in, pointing a gun, and they say, for Angel! Shoot. It was meant for Tommy, but Grace catches the bullet. Oh, hey, Marie. Grace is dead. Okay, so when I was rewatching this, I knew she was gonna die, and I couldn't remember at what point she was gonna die. For some reason, I thought it was gonna be at like the end of season 4, but I was watching this episode. I remember how she died, like from the wearing the necklace. He got the sapphire. I remember thinking, God, did he have the sapphire for a really long time or what? Scrolled to the end and said, oh shit, she dies in episode 2. What the f? That is so... They don't care. They don't care. Okay, so it's gonna get really depressing. So at the top of the next episode, poor Tommy, he's been staying out all night. He doesn't sleep in the house. We find out later he doesn't sleep very much at all. In the fields watching a fire throughout the night. And then come morning time, he goes home, feeds the horses, spends time with Charlie. Ada says that he's been staying outside since the funeral. Like I said, the show kind of goes very fast. We don't really notice how much time has gone by. Since we started till now, I think probably 2 or 3 months have gone by. It's just something to point out that this doesn't happen like one day to the next. Tommy has made a list of people that he wants to see when he comes back in the morning, and at the top of the list is Polly and Michael. They say the books are unaffected and there's a surge of donations to the charity, and they want to name orphanage, they want to name it Grace Shelby Institute. Arthur and John go in and they're kind of hurt because Tommy wanted to see Michael over them, his own brothers. They went to the hospital, they slit Angel's throat. No more problems there. It cleared out all the other Italians, and that Mr. Changretta is waiting with his wife for a train back to Liverpool. So Tommy says, go and kill his wife and then bring Vincente here because I'm gonna kill him. Arthur and John, they look at each other and they're like, I don't think we should do that. Mrs. Changretta was one of their school teachers. They said she's always been super nice to us. She's never done anything wrong. Can't we just let her go? Tommy's like, no. No. John brings up that he's hurt that Tommy saw Michael before he would see his own brothers. And he's like, it's just business as usual. John is like, since when? Tommy, ooh, he snaps. He goes, since my wife took a bullet meant for me.
Wife took a bullet meant for me.
Thank you. I'll take my check in the mail. There's going to be a war between the rest of the Shelbys. They have a little bit of a powwow without Tommy. There's a moment of tension between Arthur and John and Michael, but then they make up. It's fine. They're okay. But then they hear that Tommy has taken Charlie and Johnny dogs and a carriage, and they're getting out of here. Left him a note saying that they're going to Wales and they'll be back in a couple of days. Tommy tells Johnny that they're going to see a woman. The whole time since Grace has died, Charlie, the baby, has been asking for Grace while they're out camping, going on this trip to Wales. Tommy talks to Charlie that Grace is not coming back. He'll take care of him, but they're going to leave everything how it is, how she left it. So John, Michael, and Arthur are out drinking. Then Arthur's trying to explain how it feels to take a man's life. So then Michael gets a crazy fucking look in his eye, takes the gun, points it to John. And John is like, that is a hair trigger. Ease up. Get that away from me. Michael takes the gun, turns around, points it on Arthur. Polly comes out there and is like, Michael, just go inside. He turns to Polly and he goes, I'm not a fucking child anymore. Michael is so rude. Wow, growing up is realizing Michael's a bitch. Oh, I should also point out that Michael met a girl at the wedding. Her name is Charlotte. They started having a relationship, so that's been going on too. More on that later. I feel like I should just mention it now because if I don't, it'll just be like, whoa, okay. John and Arthur go to the factory and meet with Nutley. They give Nutley a list of men who are in the Communist Party and tell him to fire them all. And then he says, well, if I do that, every factory is going to go on strike. That's all part of the plan. They ask Nutley if anybody's name is missing. It's a test. He says no. Well, now we know we can't trust you because there is somebody missing. We intentionally left someone off the list to see what you would say. They say they'll be watching him. Nutley agrees to fire everyone on the list. So that's what's going to cause the strike. Most of these things are like distraction tactic. Ruben is painting Polly. They're having a flirtatious little vibe. I don't know how they get on the topic and it doesn't matter. She mentions that she's not educated. She was never educated as a child, thinking that he'll think less of her, but he's like, I am so infatuated by you. Still on her guard because she's like, I guess you're only doing this so you can tell your friends that you're painting a gangster, huh? And he's like, no, I don't have any friends because most of the friends I did have were through my wife and she's dead. He says, I actually only wanted to paint this portrait of you because for his own personal gain, he saw it as a challenge, capture her image, emotion, her personality on the canvas, and also partly because I plan on seducing you and I would love to sleep with you. Johnny Dogs brings a woman, Madame Boswell, to meet with Tommy. She's a gypsy woman. Tommy gives her the necklace, the sapphire necklace, to ask if it's really cursed. He's wanting to put the blame on something instead of himself so that he can sleep at night. Can you just tell me that these things are cursed so that I can be like, it was because of that? And so she says, yeah, it's cursed. I don't think they really were. Because at first, sir, if she would wear them, she says yes. I don't know, up for you to decide. Just says yes, they're cursed to give him some fucking peace. After that, he gets Johnny to take him and Charlie to the train station so that they can get back home. Vincente and his wife, they're waiting for a train, and then he notices some Peaky Blinders coming through the crowd, so he flags down the police. Help me, these guys are chasing me. Police officer is like, all right, come with me. Unfortunately, that police officer was one of the police officers that the Blinders have paid off. The police officer takes him to a dock. I don't know why neither one of them, the wife or Mr. Vincente, was like, where are we going? And they've led him to more Peaky Blinders underneath the pier. So that is where Arthur and John show some mercy. We need you to come with us. Mrs. Changreta is like, I'm not fucking leaving without him, and you're not taking him. So you can kill us both. Arthur explains, doing you a favor by letting you live. You need to let him come with us. Mr. Changreta, he goes with them and he's like, I love you so much and take care. Bye. This scene may be one of my favorite Tommy scenes just because we see like him really losing it. John and Arthur have Mr. Changreta strapped up to a chair. Tommy comes in there, gets a razor blade out. I'm going to torture you. And we're doing this very slow and I'm going to make it as painful as possible. So it's 7 o'clock now. By the time the sun rises and the birds start singing, that's when you die. Throughout the whole night, you're mine. I'm going to slice off things one by one. It's gonna be hell. I hope you're ready for this. He's like, should I pull out your teeth? Should I chop off your ear? And he's like, I forgot who I am. I'm a Peaky Blinder. I'll cut out your eyeballs. When Tommy is just losing it, Arthur, we just hear, bah! Arthur shoots Changreta in the back of the head and he's like, stop. John and Arthur tell Tommy that they didn't kill his wife. That's not who we are. We have a little bit of class, and you need to check yourself. Check thyself before thy wreck thyself, okay? Arthur leaves to go get right with the Lord. Tommy tells John, take the razors and throw them away. I don't ever want to see him again. Tommy's talking with Ada back at home. She says one of Freddie's old friends from the Communist Party. She asked about the Birmingham branch of the National Vigilante Committee, which is like the Section D, Odd Fellows. And friend that she's talking to heard that the Soviet embassy is getting info from the inside. Sorry, what? From who? She says that it's a man named James Monklin, who's a Lloyd's underwriter. I don't even know what that means. Underwriter? Says that he is going to send Ada to Boston to start doing some deals for him. James Monklin ends up getting arrested. Tommy goes in there and asks about who is he getting the info from Section D. Another scene, we have Linda talking to Arthur, saying that this night business has got to stop. Once I finish this deal with Tommy, it'll all be over with. She's like, no, for real, it's got to stop. I'm pregnant. You finish this last deal, you need to leave it behind. I'm not raising this baby by myself, and he needs a father, so get it together. Arthur gets the boys together, announce that he's going to be a father. Everybody's congratulating him, and Arthur is like keeping an eye on Tommy to see what he's got to say about everything. And Tommy's just staring at him like, and then he just goes, goodbye, Arthur. I just got some meetings I gotta go to, but congratulations. The way that Cillian Murphy delivered that line, this was me watching it. Oh. I thought he was just saying, like, we're done. Father Hughes and Jarvis, the Petrovnas, are having dinner. I have one more character. This is the Duchess Isabel Petrovna. She's the wife and the aunt of Tatiana. She's not Tatiana's wife. Leon's wife. They're all having dinner. Tommy comes in there and gives the report on the mission's progress. He gives the report to the Grand Duchess, Isabella. Did I say Isabel? Oh, whatever. Close enough. He gives the report to her because she's like, I'm basically running this whole side of the operation over here. So he explains that the strike is going to be a distraction and the cars will be put on Shelby trucks and taken to Poplar Docks. Father John Hughes keeps interrupting Tommy, keeps cutting him off. He keeps looking at him like, during the riot, the factory will be firebombed, so no trace of the cars can be found, and they'll be written off as salvage. He's looking like he's writing down a figure, asking for more funds, but what he really writes down, and he gives it to Isabella, he writes on a napkin, I have secrets. Alright, I'm leaving, but I just want it to be known that I am unable to swallow any food when I'm in the same room as this man right here. Thanks, bye, I'm leaving. Tatiana follows him out because the Duchess has sent her to go talk to Tommy about what secrets he may have. He tells her that Father Hughes is the informant. He's telling the Soviet embassy about the robbery that's taking place and all of the plans that are going into action to do the robbery. He says that he'll kill him. They have to give him permission to do it. And Tatiana, she gets on my f***ing nerves. She is a cunt. Okay, she's a bitch. You are a mean girl. You're a bitch. Out of nowhere, too. It says something like, I don't think you really loved your wife. Starts talking about Grace all the fucking time. Ticks Tommy off because, yes, he did. He was so in love with her. Anyway, he grabs a hold of her. He says, Grace is always with me. Right now, she's telling me not to trust any of you. Again, once more, for permission to kill Father John Hughes. The opening of the next episode, the Peaky Blinders are shooting at an elk, a stag. Skin it, they're cooking it up by a fire. Tommy says, well, I just got a letter saying that our father is dead. He says that the letter claims that he was shot in Boston. The letter was from a woman that their dad was sleeping with. He says that while he was dying, he was asking for forgiveness from the rest of the family. The stag that they killed was for him. They'll eat the meat, they'll say their piece, and then they're done with him. Tommy says, John, if you'd like to, you can name your kid after him. Now I'm good. The name will die with him. And then he kind of explains in his own way the robbery that's going to be taking place for the Russians. Polly goes to confession and confesses to a priest about the crime that she committed. You know, killing Campbell. Is making her feel so bad is that she doesn't feel regret about killing him at all. And now she's got a voice in her head that's telling her to kill a holy man. So the priest, she's not talking to Father Hughes. And so the priest is sitting there like, this episode, we see the women are starting to get riled up. The men are never here. Esme's getting high on coke while she's still pregnant. Polly comes into the betting hall drunk as a skunk. Lizzie's like, yeah, me and Tommy have been fucking. So I help him sometimes through the night. So Linda comes in there. She's like, do you guys want to hear a message from the Lord? They're like, oh, off, Linda. She says that she has a friend, been talking to a woman named Jessie Eden who works in the factories. And she's bringing all the female workers to protest work conditions. They're having a walkout. Linda goes and asks all the women here want to march with them. And they're like, yeah, f it, why not? So they leave the betting den. So Tommy tells all the men about the cars that they're going to steal. And he says that Isaiah and Charlie are going to get a cut. The rest will be spent buying legal property in America. Arthur feels concerned about this. And he tells Tommy that after this job is done, that he is through. He's not doing this anymore. Tatiana is meeting with Tommy, saying that she needs more proof that Father Hughes is the informant. That's where John comes in and tells us Tommy that the women have gone on strike. And Tommy's like, I know, it's that fucking Linda. Later on in the day, Tatiana and Tommy sleep together. She's like, this is not your bedroom. This is not where you slept with your wife. She is so concerned. Like, are you into her? You want to be her? You will never be her. It makes comments about you can have anything you want, especially in this house. You can have sex wherever you want and you hide away like a little boy. So she takes his gun, starts running through the house with it. He finds her in his office. He dumps all the bullets out and plays Russian roulette with herself. Tommy's freaking out, calls the maid down. She wants her to watch them have sex or something like that. I don't know. Tatiana's a fucking freak, man. She ends up in Tommy and Grace's room. She puts on her perfume. Ma'am, no. Because Tommy's freaking out and kind of scaring her a little bit. She ends up giving him permission to kill Father Hughes. That was a long way to get to that. But the Shelbys have the floor plan of the Duke and Duchess's estate that they're staying in. There's something under the house they need to get to where a lot of loot, maybe. Sergeant Moss was able to get them a young Russian boy. Well, he's not a boy. He's a young man. His name is Stefan. He's going to go and stay at their house as like a butler, get the layout of the land and see if he can sneak down under the house. Father Hughes talks to the priest that was talking to Polly. There's going to be a murder of a holy man. Don't know who, don't know where. Oh, I don't know. I'm just telling you what I heard, okay? So then Tommy's talking to Linda. She basically explains what I've already told you. After the whole deal is done, her and Arthur packing up, they're going to America, to California, and we're going to own a general store. I'm going to be a teacher, and Arthur's going to live a quiet life with me and his son. And then she's also been calculating Arthur's profit in all of this, and she corrects Tommy, and she's like, actually, he should be making blah, 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 blah. If he's risking his life to do something for you, the pay better be correct. You better come correct. Tommy agrees. He's like, whatever, Linda, you can leave. As soon as it's done, he's free to go. Tommy, well, he plans to go kill Father Hughes. He follows him into a bathroom. Well, Tommy is ambushed by some other people that are protecting Father Hughes. Hughes is watching him get his ass beat, his ass handed to him. The people that are beating him up for Father Hughes, they are literally beating the shit out of, like, putting him to the brink of death. Put Tommy in the back of a truck and take him to a warehouse. Father Hughes tells Tommy that him passing information is a part of a bigger plan. I'm doing my own bidding too, so Father Hughes tells him, we're going to arrange another meeting with the Petrovnas. You need to tell them that you are mistaken and you need to apologize in front of everybody. He says, if you don't, we'll take your son, Charlie. You know we can get in there. And then they dump him out on the street. In a lot of pain. He can't hardly breathe, see very well. He calls up Arthur and he tells him the robbery will be sabotaged, and he calls Ada to get someone from the Soviet embassy. Tommy goes to dinner with the Petrovnas and Father Hughes is there. He says, I've come here to apologize, and Father Hughes says, well, you need to recite the act of contrition. Instead of using God, I need you to use my name instead, since it was me that you accused, asserting his power. He's acting like a total dick. Tommy's like, I think I need to leave. I don't feel very well. He goes to Ada. He meets with the special advisor to the Soviet consul and tells him about the robbery and that their informant is working against them because they want them to stop the robbery and commit a violent act on the British land. You got all that? If it were to take place, it would force the British government to break diplomatic relations. Says the robbery is just bait in a game. This is just a little side quest. There's a bigger picture happening. Tommy tells Ada to get him to a hospital because he can't see. I think I have fucking internal bleeding. Skull is fractured and my brain is swelling. I need help. Because he said, I can't see anything. And he says, except you, Dad. I can see you. What does that mean? What does that mean? Are you on the brink of death? Top of the episode, episode 5. Tommy, he's laying in a hospital bed recovering. They shaved this man's head. They already have some ass haircuts, and now he's got a big chunk missing at the top of his head where they had to stitch his skull back together, and he's smoking on that opium. Michael comes and sees Tommy, and Tommy's just like staring. He's like this. He's like staring out the window, and he says, I heard about that priest. He's the same priest that was at my school growing up, and he did things to me. Please, can I be the one to kill him? Tommy's like, yeah, go ahead. I don't care. 3 months later, that's what I'm saying. So much time has passed. It tells Mary that his son, Charlie, has finally started asking for Tommy instead of Grace. Which, yay, that's great, but also, aww. The Blinders they're looking at all the cars in the factory. There's a little pin that they all need to even shoot the guns in the car. They say that they don't make that certain pin that they need. They don't make it anymore, so get all the pins out, keep them. So they're telling this to the Soviet consul. He says that there's no need to blow them up anymore. They don't work. You don't have to blow them up anymore, right? Right? Say yes. Say psych right now. So Tommy tells Johnny Dogs to get 3 families from the Lees together to go set up camp at the Hampton Court Palace, which is where the Petrovnas are staying at, on the outsides of the estate, because they're going to be digging. That they will be joined by some people coming in to help dig a tunnel to get underneath the house. Okay, he's back. Alfie comes by to see Tommy, calling himself the Wandering Jew. His words, not mine. He said he heard Tommy was getting Jewish people to come and do his bidding. Anyway, they go back and forth and have a little bit of a sassy conversation. And he says, you know what? From the beating I took, the only thing that I really need from that is I need some glasses. And then Alfie tells him that he knows somebody that can make him some glasses that can see clearly, also to see the future. What? And then that's when Alfie starts to ask about the Russians. We'll get back to that in just a second. But Michael's in another room with the boys. He tells them that him and his girl Charlotte are expecting a baby. He says that Charlotte does not want her family to know, and she also doesn't want to keep the baby. It's not a great situation. Arthur tells them about they know a woman that can help her and him get rid of the baby. Then Tommy calls all of them back in while Alfie is still there. Well, you know, the last time Alfie and Arthur saw each other was not great. That was when Arthur got arrested for something that Alfie had put on, framed him for killing Billy Kitchen, but not on the best of terms. Arthur walks in there and he sees Alfie. Alfie just goes, Arthur! Shalom, Arthur!
Arthur! Shalom!
Like, he's such an ass. I love him so much. He says that anything that happened between them before was just business, and he says, I hear you're a holy man now. Arthur is, like, gritting his teeth. He grabs onto a ashtray and is about to swing. He's getting hot. Arthur says that he's Old Testament, and then Alfie's like, oh, that's dangerous. He still will kill and murder with God on his side. Tommy says that he came up with a plan since the Russians can't be trusted to pay, and they need Alfie to come with them to see what's in their treasury. The Shelby brothers go to the Duke and Duchess's estate. There's Russian soldiers there standing guard, and Tatiana says that anytime the treasury is open, they have to be on guard. Well, they go inside, and Tommy tells Arthur and John some of the Russian soldiers working for both sides of the field, if you know what I'm saying, will have tattoos marking an opposing organization. I need you guys to strip down so they can check you for some tattoos to make sure you're not double-crossing them. Arthur feels uncomfortable by this because, you know, he is right with the Lord now. I'm not strip-teasing for you. John is all for it. He's bare-ass naked. They do it. They get undressed. They're standing there naked. Arthur, we start to see him crack a little bit. He was getting a little too aroused, if you will, by Tatiana looking at him naked. Arthur, come on now. Be strong. And they say, okay, you're clean. It's customary for you guys to stay around and party and drink some vodka. Michael, Polly, and Ada are sitting around. Ada is signing a contract. Polly says that Michael needs to be there because he's the accountant for the company. Oh, my lord. Sorry. You know, that old psoriasis is flaring up again. But Michael is getting antsy as hell. He says that he needs to go call Charlotte. He's actually calling the lady to help get rid of the baby and says, we need to set up an appointment ASAP, Rocky. Like, come on. He comes back. Ada has signed with the company to work for like, a liaison, pretty much. She's working on like the property side of the business. Polly says, I was invited over by Ruben. Come see the painting. Tells Ada not to say a word to anybody about her and him. His friends write for the paper. And if Tommy finds that out, Tommy would close down the paper. It would just not be good. At the Petrovna household, their party is a fucking orgy, okay? They're having sex. They're snorting cocaine. They're drinking vodka. We also see Stefan. Remember, he was going to be like the eyes and ears of the inside of the house. He looks fucking uncomfortable as hell. He keeps checking his watch and he's like, I want to leave. Leaves the room. John goes after him and he's like, you're doing fine. But Stefan says that he found out the rooms are heavily guarded. Duke will kill with a sword, but the Duchess will kill with a machine gun. Miss Isabella, she don't play. She is rough and tough. Now in the treasury, Tatiana takes Tommy down there. Alfie's already there with the Duke and Duchess. He's roped up and tied up. Tommy confirms that that's his jeweler. Tatiana says, we've agreed. Your jeweler go and pick out pieces of jewelry that equate to 70,000 pounds. They said they're going to put it in a box and lock it up. And the deal is all done, the stolen vehicles and stuff. Then he can come and get his jewels. They start speaking Russian around Alfie, but he starts speaking Russian back. He's like, yeah, I know it. On my mother's side. You and your people chased my mom, hunted her down with dogs through the snow. But enough about that. Let's get to counting. He picks some jewels. He starts throwing them out on the table. He sees one necklace. He sees some paste on it. I don't know what he means by paste. I don't know if he means glue or what. You know what I do to people that bring me jewels and try and pass them off like this? I make them swallow it. So really getting on the Duke here, making them sweat. I forget who brings it up, but one of them brings up a Fabergé egg. Tatiana goes and she pulls a Fabergé egg that she has. I don't know nothing about Fabergé eggs, but I guess that they are like the cream of the crop. Alfie looks at it and he's like, holy shit. Yep, I'll take it. So Polly's over with Ruben looking at her portrait. She's like, oh my fucking God, this is amazing. This is his best, what the fuck? shock. He says this is his best portrait he's ever done. And they end up having sex. While they're having sex, Ruben, for some reason, he starts putting his hands around Polly's throat. That was something that Campbell did to Polly. Polly's like, can you not do that, please? Like, she gets really freaked out. But anyway, they continue to have sex. Are lying together. Post-nut clarity, you know. Polly confesses to killing a police officer to Ruben. Shelby's, they're still partying hard with the Russians. Arthur goes off with a hooer, a woman of the night, and we see him take off his wedding ring while he's having sex with her. Arthur! Arthur! Tatiana, she keeps on flirting with Tommy. She asks Tommy if he still loves Grace. And does he still want her? And he starts crying. And anyway, she's like, I can help you out if you want. She tells him about a priest, not Father Hughes, about a priest that helped out women who lost their husbands to war. He would put his hands around their throats, basically choking them out, feel a form of ecstasy called Klisti, a Siberian prayer, almost hungover, almost dead, and women who lost their men in war would have sex with their ghosts. She does it to Tommy, and he starts seeing like flash images of Grace. The Shelbys leave. When they get back home, a truckload of men get out. We find out that they are old war buddies. They're clay kickers. They go over the plan to dig a tunnel to get into the treasury. That is so fierce. I'm telling you. Polly goes into Michael's office, starts snooping around because Michael's been acting real pissy, and she finds a box. At first you think it's a ring box. Maybe he's gonna propose. So she opens it up. There's a bullet inside marked for Father Hughes. And then Tommy comes in, sees her looking at it. Michael said that he knew Father Hughes from what he did to him when he was a boy. She gets really emotional, but she still says no to him killing. We're on episode 6, season finale. This is our last episode of this video. A lot of is gonna happen. So the Shelbys open up their new orphanage. Tommy gives a speech. All the children will be safe and loved, and they're not gonna be turned away. Johnny Dogs has let John know that they've hit hard clay in the tunnel, and it's gonna take an extra 2 days to dig through it. They're asking Tommy if he can come and look at it, but no. He has got severe PTSD from being in the tunnel. Some women come up to Tommy, and they're heckling the hell out of him. No, heckling's not the right word. They are overwhelming Tommy. We're so excited for this new orphanage. Do you want to take some pictures with us for the newspaper? He was holding Charlie. They want him to hold some kind of statue, so he passes off Charlie to a maid. They take the pictures. He goes over to Ada and he's like, where's Charlie? And she's like, well, I gave him to you. They don't know where Charlie's at. Just that quick, he's gone. Somebody else says that they saw a woman get into a car with him. So Arthur tells Tommy him and Polly need to go to the office and just wait by the phone. Tommy tells Polly it's Section D. It's Father Hughes. Father Hughes, he talks to Tommy, says, yes, we have your son. That he knows that he made a deal with the Soviets, with the Soviet embassy. Father Hughes tells Tommy to blow up the train. The explosion needs to happen. Remember, they were not going to blow it up because they took all those pins out. Remember me telling you about that? Yeah, me neither. Also gives him some notes, papers, and tells him to scatter the notes around so it can be evidence. Got names on it. People can find in the wreckage of people in the Soviet embassy. Says when the British government cuts ties with the Soviets, then the job will be done. In the explosion, at least like 5 or 6 people need to die to make a statement. Hughes is asking about the tunnel, and he says that he wants a Fabergé egg from the treasury. It's gonna take some time. I can't have it done right now because they hit the hard clay. Father Hughes is like, not my problem. I don't care. You have till 5 a.m. the night of the explosion. Is hitting the fan. As if that wasn't enough chaos. Esme's water breaks, so she's going into labor. You know what? They don't even talk about her. She ends up having her baby. She's fine. That's just an added layer to things. This is where Tommy really starts accusing everybody. Who squeaked? Who squealed? He says the only people that knew about the eggs are in this room. We have Arthur, John, Polly. As Ada's there. I don't think Finn is there. Finn's he doesn't do much. He accuses Arthur of telling Linda family business, so maybe she squealed. He accuses John of letting Esme snort all that cocaine, so maybe she ran her mouth. Polly's been getting involved with Ruben. Ada, he's like, weird timing, you just showed back up into the family, Ada, huh? Like, he is just pointing fingers at everybody. I've ran it through my head so many times, and all odds point to Ruben that he's the one that squealed. He didn't squeal. Why would Ruben be interested in Polly other than family business? Dude, that is rude, actually. Maybe he's actually in love with her. God forbid. And Polly, she starts to think, God, maybe you're right. So Polly gets drunk. She starts slicing up the portrait. Last scene for Alfie. I'm in character right now. This scene is so good. Alfie has brought someone with him as backup. He gives him 3 lists. One is a list of people that he would sell a Fabergé egg to. The other list is a list of men who don't care if the egg was stolen. And the last list is a list of men who would buy the egg to give to their wives. And Tommy gives him some money for giving him the list of names. He pulls his gun and points it at Alfie. You forgot a name off the list. A man who is the richest one out of all of them. This proves that Alfie's done a deal with Section D and that he told them about the tunnels. Alfie! Why would you do that? It's business, love. It's just business. Tommy breaks and he's just like, they're using my fucking son. Did you know they were gonna take my son? And Alfie says, well, yeah, of course I did, but what the fuck do I care? What difference does it make to me? And Tommy goes to choke him out, and that Alfie's brought with him is trying to pull him off. Michael shows up and shoots him in the back of the head. That's the first man Michael's killed. He's a made man. Boss has been made. Michael stops Tommy from shooting Alfie. Their truce in London, in the London outfits, will be gone. Alfie's like, oh man, that truce is gone. That you are a fucking hypocrite. You fight by the sword, you die by the sword. Wait, you fight with the sword? Is that the phrase? You fight with the sword? There's so many fathers that have lost their sons to and for the Peaky Blinders, and what about them? Well, then Tommy calms down and he tells Michael, he says, go tell the police it's Palmer. I'll get to that in a second. Don't worry, it'll make sense. Alfie says, I actually didn't know they were gonna take your boy. Why did you lie? Why did you say that? Okay, cut on that scene. Reuben comes to the office to see Polly. He sees that his portrait has been sliced and diced. Polly comes out and basically accuses him. Did you say anything? Or why do you want to be with me? Nothing that she thinks that has happened is because of him and because of them being together. And then she says, I just want a dull, boring life. Maybe that could be with you. That would be like, is that a diss? Like, are you calling me boring? They end up making up and they're fine. Moss went and found the guy named Palmer, got him arrested. He's working with Section D and the Oddfellows, and he knows where Charlie is at. Arthur and John get him strung up and they're asking where Charlie is at. Tommy, he is so desperate, so he ends up going into the tunnels to help dig through that hard clay. So they gotta dig the tunnel before midnight so they can get into the treasury and take all the jewels. Michael goes to talk to Arthur and John that he just killed a man. I shot a man in Reno. My ADHD is flying off the charts. They give him an address of where they think Charlie is at. The last little bit of the episode, it's cutting between like 3 different things that are happening. Tommy digging through the tunnels. Michael goes to get Father Hughes. Arthur and John are at the train station about to blow up the train. Strike begins at the factory, and they say if they don't hear anything by 10 o'clock, then they're going to go ahead and blow up the train. Michael goes to get Charlie. Father Hughes has him. He points a gun at him. Father Hughes knocks the gun out of his hand. This Michael kind of like freezes for a second. He's only killed one guy. Give him a break. Michael eventually is able to slit Father Hughes's throat. Oh, no. What's my name? Father Hughes is dead. Did somebody else die? I did this last time. Did somebody else die? Oh, no. That was way back in like episode 3 or 4. Mr. Changretta died. Go call Arthur and John and let them know that I got Charlie and you don't need to blow up the train. Finn gets the call and he's running down the track, but it is too late. They blow it up. It's, this is hell. We're going into hell. The rest of the clay kickers, they're able to get through when he's stealing the jewels. Tommy gets out of the tunnel and he calls Charlie to hear his voice and make sure he's okay. Michael, he runs over to see his girlfriend Charlotte, who is about to have her abortion. I don't even know why he showed up and is basically like, you good? And she says, yeah, I think so. And he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna leave. Bye. He's like, I really could use some support with this. And he's like, well, I gotta go. There's family business happening. Michael! Tommy and Tatiana meet somewhere out in a field. He brings her the jewels and the Fabergé egg. He says she needed a tunnel and he needed a signature to make everything legal. She gives him all the money. He says, I'm going to go buy a racehorse. Get another one, why don't you? Let's go back to the basics. Tommy's walking away and he just hears a gunshot go off. Well, there was a man there who kind of like acting as the mediator and signing the signatures. Tatiana turns around and shoots him dead. These jewels are so hard to sell back home because they're cursed. Nobody wants to buy them. This scene is setting us up for such a great season. Last scene, Tommy has called a big family meeting. Well, all the Shelbys are there. Lizzie's there. Esme, Linda, Curly, Charlie, Johnny, Michael, everybody's there. He gives everybody their fair share. Tells Linda, you and Arthur can go ahead and leave if you want. Lizzie, this is your money because you were there for me when I needed somebody to just sleep with. You saved my heart from breaking a couple of nights. He admits that he made a mistake with dealing with the Russians. He has a realization where he's like, I'm sorry, this is all I can give you in exchange for you giving me your lives. I'm only able to pay you this. Doesn't matter. Now that he's had a come to Jesus meeting of almost losing his fucking son. He says the Peaky Blinders will never be accepted because of who they are and where they come from. Linda gets up. She tells Arthur that their boat is about to leave for New York. He says goodbye to Tommy and Tommy doesn't really answer. Tommy says, you're not going to get far. There's an arrest warrant out for Arthur for murder, sedition, conspiracy to cause explosions, and they're coming to get him. That's not all, bestie. They're coming for John, Michael, and Polly. They're coming for everybody. Everybody's getting arrested. The police are knocking at the door. Family inside is in an uproar, and Tommy says they made a deal in return for evidence against them. Police come in, they arrest everybody. Tommy's watching them all be loaded up into the police truck and just turns around and walks away. Tommy, you actual bitch. You asshole. I mean, it's all part of a plan, but anyway, that is the end of season 3. I was kind of nervous about doing this one because American Horror Story, like each season was different, so I didn't have to get hung up on characters and remembering things too much. Like this is a continuation kind of series. Unfortunately, Grace, well, not unfortunately, they will be moved to the graveyard. Yeah, we'll get the board cleaned up and organized a little bit more. I'll be back. I don't know when the next one will come out. These take quite a bit of time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I'm tired. I'm bored. I think because the seasons are shorter, my attention span is able to be, it's okay. I don't know what else to say right now. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed Sweaty. Keep coming back if you want to see part 2. And maybe, I thought about it when the movie eventually comes out. As of right now, I think it's coming out on Netflix. And if it does, maybe we could have a watch party or something. Wouldn't that be fun? We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. If it's going to theaters first, I'm sorry, I can't wait. I'm gonna go see it. Sorry. And maybe we can update what happens. All right, thanks for watching. And I love you. I love you so much. I love you so much, Sweaty. Don't look at me. Don't look at me like that. All right, I'm gonna go now. I'm leaving. I'm for real. I'm turning it off. I'm turning it off. Ew. God. Ow. Ow. Oh, shit. I think I just broke something in my bag. Ugh. Ow. I poked myself. I broke skin. Ow, mother. Ow. I think most of these videos I just have to cut out me going like, ow.